Hey, folks. Hey, happy Sunday. Glad you all could join me. And my camera is not angled where I want it to be, but we're going to make this work. Gosh darn it. I had this right before I went on here. I promise y'all I did. You know what? We're going to just tilt it, and then it's going to fall. Hold on. Give me a minute. That's how we got to do. Got to get it right. See, now that don't look right because now I'm bring it down some. Not too far down. Y'all don't need to see everything. Okay. Gosh darn it. Let's try that again. Oh, see, this is the real me. See, you get the real authentic version of Calvin. There we go. All right. I think that should do. Stay. Let's tilt that way. A bit more down. Hold on. I got to get this right, y'all. Need it right. There we go. There we go. And stay. Is that right? Let's see. I don't like that. It's still crooked. Hold on. I'm sorry, y'all. We got to be right. We're going to be here for 2 hours. I need to be right. Okay. We'll make it work. That's fine. All right. Anyway, hopefully you guys can hear me. Happy Sunday. Let's see. We got a whole lot to cover. I'm going to get a few hellos in real quick, and then we will just jump right in everything. I'm so happy y'all are down to join me on this wonderful Sunday. Let's see here. What up, Jalil? What up, Sam J? She said she'll catch the replay. Merry Christmas, Calvin in the chat. What up, Janet Bennett? Santino. Oh, I know you. Palazola, what up? What up? Hope you're well. Yes, I am. I cannot complain. What up, Charlene McKinney? Prim Pout NYC by Tokyo Quo. Okay. Shout out to y'all. Man, hey. Not y'all laughing at me in this camera. I needed the camera to be right. Like, we're gonna be on here. It need to be right. I can't be angled sideways. All right. Let's see. And dang, now I'm hot. I want to turn my AC on, but I'm not getting up. Somebody said I had a feeling you were going live soon. It has been a lot going on. Look, I'm trying to live. Soulful said only 2 hours. We need 3. I said 2, but y'all know by the time we get in our pocket, it'd be 3 hours and 10 minutes on here. And it's crazy because remember when we started doing these lives, these used to be like an hour. And folks were like, that's too long. Now we done tripled it. Now it's too short. So, all right. What up, Eric Hicks? Ayana J. Hey, Calvin, loving the podcast episodes. Yeah, you guys will be getting a new one around the new year. Mariah is almost where I need it to be, so that'll be coming out. I'm not gonna say the date because then if I miss the date, I'm gonna look like a terrible person. But the podcast is gonna be following right after that. So yeah, the podcast episodes only get better from each episode gets better and better. And this is for people who haven't been following. I have a podcast called Comedically Hardheaded, and right now we're talking about my 11 years of running a community center and all the ins and outs and the funny stories and sad stories and the chaos and the moments where I had to flip out on everybody and all the moments that went wrong. So it's funny. All right. It's a funny podcast, but each year gets better. The first 2 years, because I think we're right now in year 2 still. It's all about working out the kinks and you're still getting to know a lot of the people in the podcast. So, and by the way, I've changed all the names. So no point in trying to be nosy and trying to discover who was who and where out. I changed names, locations, cities, everything. That way people's privacy is protected because that center is still there. And I still actually volunteer there bi-weekly. All right. Anyway, but listen, I got a story for y'all before I jump into these heavier topics because there's a lot of heavy ones tonight. So I do got to lighten it up first. AAA, count your days. So here's the thing. I have a car that is, it don't even matter how old the car is because it's still a good car. It runs very well. It's paid off, which is why I'm still driving it. I don't want a car note. Like I'm driving that thing until it falls apart. But anyway, as I transitioned out of working in the community center and into my new role does not require me to be on site as much. So I get to work from home like 3 days out of the week. And then the other 2 days that I do go on site, I just take the metro. I don't have to drive because it's faster to just metro there than try to drive, figure out parking and all that other crap. So I don't drive that often. So I drove down to Richmond, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then I went to New York at the same time. And I can't remember, but I know I hadn't driven the car for like a week, right? The car was kind of sitting in the garage. When I came back from Richmond, I think I left the cabin light on in the car. I wasn't paying attention. Somehow left the light on. You know, you taking all your bags and stuff out after you've been traveling. Somehow I left the cabin light on. Didn't know because, hey, I don't drive, so I didn't go back down to my car for like another week and a half, right? So, of course, I'm trying to open the car, and the little key fob thing is not open. There's nothing. I'm like, why's my car not opening? Oh, I'm like, battery in my little key thing must just be dead. All right, let me use my key. So try to use the key, open the door, and I didn't realize like the lights were off on the inside of it. So I'm like, okay, let me get here and start the car. And there was nothing. It was just. I said, oh, I was like, oh, I think the battery's drained out. And then I was like, yeah, I think I drained the battery. Okay, so I went ahead, called AAA because hey, that's who I utilize. They can be helpful when they want to be. And I was like, hey, I think I left one of my cabin lights on, or I think I left the light on in here. So I just AAA has this thing where they can do a battery test, or they can just bring a new battery. I always just tell them just bring one just in case, and I'll just pay for a new battery, right? So AAA comes to the building, right? They come, and mind you, I don't think they were able to come for like a day, right? This is shortly after, I want to say Thanksgiving. So everybody and their mom has been traveling. Everybody been ran into problems on 95 and stuff. So I think it took them a day to get me in. So they come in with the battery. Now I'm already mapping the rest of my day out because I was supposed to go see the kids that day. And so, I've had my battery replaced before, right? And that only takes it's like a 10-minute job. I would have just did it myself, but I was like, I would have to actually get to the store and go carry the battery. And since the car ain't working, I'm not about to get on the subway and be riding way out there trying to carry a car battery back. Nope, AAA come do it. That's what I'm paying y'all for. So anyway, AAA comes, right? The guy puts all the little gadgets and machines and stuff, and he's trying to get me to crank the car in the car. So he was like, yeah, man, it's not the battery, it's your alternator. I said, really? It's the alternator. Yeah, man, it ain't the battery's fine. This battery got about 30% juice still in it. It should be good. And at this point, I realized the cabin light was what was left on, because when we were trying to crank the car, it was that one cabin light turning on. I was like, okay, so yeah, I left the light on. So to me, I'm like, no, it's not going to be the alternator because clearly it drained the battery. But okay. So I was like, well, then what do you suggest here? Well, I mean, you give me a venue, we can tow it to the place and go from there. And I'm like, tow it to me? I don't feel like doing that right now. So I was like, I'll reschedule y'all, because technically, like, I'm not tied to the car. I'll be okay if it ain't working, because clearly I ain't used it for a week anyway. And so I went ahead and I scheduled a different mechanic to come in to do the alternator. They have those mobile mechanics. They can just come to your house now. You don't even got to worry about trying to go out there. That's why I was like, keep the tow. I'm just having people come here and do it. That way I ain't got to even leave the building. The guy comes, and I done told these people alternator. They're telling me it's like $450 or something. Okay, great. Alternator, let's go. Let's start alternating. And so the guy looks under the hood and he's like, ain't nothing wrong with your alternator. It's the battery. Now, I knew it was the battery when I called AAA the first time. Like, I know how a car works, okay? I know how to do a whole lot of car maintenance anyway, but I would rather have the professionals do it, only because this same vehicle is one I'm probably going to be driving at 60, 70 miles an hour, and I'm not trying to die prematurely from my own fault. So let me let the professionals go and do their professional stuff. So the other guy was like, no, it's the battery. There's nothing wrong with the alternator. Like, he showed me all kind of gadgets and technology and machines and stuff he had, and he was like, yeah, the alternator's fine. I was like, you sure? Yeah, it's just the battery. Look, and then what he did is do I got a picture of it on my phone? He had some kind of gadget that showed me that the battery was bad. The battery had like no juice in it, like maybe like 1%. And the only reason there was a 1% anything in it was because he had his little charge him up, give him a jump type of gadget. And so on the little meter, if I can find it real quick, it showed that the battery was at like 1%. There was nothing on it. Now, mind you, when I told y'all earlier, the other guy said that the battery was at like 30, 40%, right? So somebody in here lying. What is this picture at? Because I need somebody to understand the nonsense, right? And it gets deeper, y'all. Come on, find this picture. I just make my story make sense. Here we go. Okay. Let's see. I don't know if y'all gonna be able to see this. It's gonna be okay. Let's see if we can see this. Okay. So look at all right, in focus. Okay, look where it says battery capacity. It says bad, right? That big old line right in the middle says bad. So it says the thing is terrible, it's bad, right? So, and mind you, I was like, okay, well, can you just put a battery in? I'll pay for the battery. He was like, oh, I ain't bringing a battery because I came here to do the alternator. Okay, so anyway, I still had to pay him for coming out there. So I still had to pay like $200, right? So then I called AAA back with a vengeance. Like, listen, now I done talked to y'all last week or a few days ago, and y'all told me this. So they bring out this other guy. Kudos to this dude. I hope he gets a promotion and gets everything he wants for Christmas, literally. He comes and he apologizes. He's like, man, let me tell you, because he looked at the battery. He's like, I'm going to let you in on something. And this is for all y'all too. So y'all take note. So what some of these people in AAA do, right? Apparently, they get commission when they give you a new battery. However, if the battery that they're replacing is a AAA battery that has been replaced within less than a year, it's already covered under the AAA warranty. So there's no commission on that battery. So a lot of times people from AAA, if they lift up your hood and they see a AAA battery in there, because I had AAA come and replace a battery like a year ago. They see that AAA battery in there and it's under warranty and it's still within that year, they're not going to do the work because there's no commission on it. So they would rather, at least you do a tow or something, because there's another conversation about services and maybe they get something off the back end on that. So the guy apologized. I was like, yeah, whoever came before you, he just didn't feel like doing the work. So yeah, there's nothing. You didn't need an alternator. You just needed a battery. And so, yeah, they gave me the battery and stuff for free. Since he was such a nice person about it, I apped him some money on the side just because, I appreciate the honesty. But the nonsense, I ended up spending $250 for something that was supposed to be free. Imagine that. AAA, count your days. Anyway, few announcements. Book club tomorrow, which is Monday the 18th. We are covering the last 5 chapters of The Short and Tragic Life of Robert Peace. And like I posted in the community tab section, the Zoom link is there. Like I said, even if you haven't read it, if you just want to be a part of the discussion or you just want to listen, you are welcome to join us that way. And so we'll wrap up The Short and Tragic Life of Robert Peace, and then we'll pick the big book club back up in February. All right. That way you guys can have January to live your lives. I can knock out some other things because I have a really cool additional music talk episode coming out centered on New Jack Swing. And so I want to get that finished too. So that's going to be my January. I'll get Mariah and another music talk video. So enjoy that. So yeah, there's that. And then last thing before I get into my stories, I did get a chance. Shout out to the HBCUs, Florida A&M. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you guys. They had the game against Howard. That was the one that was on TV, like the big giant bowl over in Atlanta. And Howard, I was rooting for y'all. I still love y'all though. Y'all my school. You know what's crazy? If BET was smart, they would go back to what they used to do. Remember when BET used to play the HBCU games on TV? I don't understand why they don't do that now. Now, I understand that Byron Allen has a whole partnership with HBCU Go and CBS, and that's why I think, 70% of households can now see HBCU games on TV, depending on if you use the HBCU Go services, which is pretty dope. But I don't understand why Bounce TV or TV One or BET hasn't gone out of their way to acquire the rights for HBCU football. These are great games. And I do think that would be a great ratings draw for both BET and, again, when you're talking about advertising dollars and revenue, that's going to be money for both HBCUs and these networks. But who am I? What do I know? You know what I mean? All right, let me take a sip out of this tea. We'll read some comments, and then we're going to jump straight to Rudy Giuliani, who will definitely be broke by tomorrow. Let's see here. Yeah, AAA really tried it. Queen said that really drains the battery. Yeah, if you leave a car light on, the battery will drain. Oh, dang, I'm trying to stay on focus, but I'm a sidebar one more time. Actually, no, you know what? Check out my podcast, the Comedically Hard-Headed Podcast, episode number 4, Pull Over So I Can Hit You. It talks all about my very first car, which it was a 1991 Ford Festiva Fiesta, whatever that car was called. And long story short, my dad had to jump the car every day because there was a cabin light in there that you couldn't manually turn on or off. It just stayed. It was, automated with the door. And because the car had been in an accident with a bus before we got it, the door couldn't close properly. So anytime you went into the car, if the car was off, the light was on. So it was we called it the quick trip car. You just drive for 30 minutes, go to where you need to go. If you go to Walmart, you got about 10, 15 minutes to get your stuff, get in and get out before the battery's going to drain from that light being on and you can't go nowhere. So that car never went past the neighborhood. That's in the podcast. But yeah, that will drain out the battery. Bro, Mario said, why didn't AAA not jump the car to determine it's not the battery? He put the jumper cables on. I don't know what he did. Homeboy knew some kind of trick because when we did it, it did but the car wouldn't really turn on. It just, but didn't turn on. So whatever he did, he knew some kind of way to make this thing not work. And my theory would be that with the kind of charger jumper thing they had, he just made sure it wasn't at full throttle or whatever, so the car wouldn't start. So he could tell me that it was the alternator and not the battery. Because when the second mechanic came and he did the little temporary charge where, he showed me that the monitor said it was a bad battery, the car was able to start until he took the charger thing off and then the car turned off. So he's like, yeah, it's your battery. Your battery has no juice in it. So yeah, they playing. Trying to go, the nerve. I swear next time I'm gonna just have if I could just keep a car battery in the garage somewhere, just keep it on the side, just put it in myself next time. Hot mess. Yeah, we'll spend another day on what BET could be doing better. Okay, let's get to Rudy Giuliani. I've been enjoying watching his downfall. It's been just a great time. A great time. Ha! Ha! All right, let me pull up the little article here. I'm going to condense this article down. I'll put any article I read tonight, I'm going to have the links in the description, but I chopped some of the reading down because otherwise we'll be here for 5 days because some of these articles were kind of long. So I'm just trying to get the meat of the articles, all right? Jury orders Giuliani to pay $148 million to election workers he defamed. Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, wrongfully accused by Rudy Giuliani of having tried to steal votes from Donald J. Trump in Georgia, were awarded the damages by a federal court in Washington. A jury on Friday ordered that Rudy Giuliani pay $148 million to two former Georgia election workers who said he had destroyed their reputations with lies that they tried to steal the 2020 election from Donald Trump. The judge of the federal district court in Washington had already ruled that Mr. Giuliani had defamed the two workers, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. The jury had been asked to decide only the amount of the damages. The jury awarded Ms. Freeman and Ms. Moss a combined $75 million in punitive damages. It also ordered that Mr. Giuliani pay a compensatory damages of $16.2 million to Ms. Freeman and $16.9 million to Ms. Moss, as well as $20 million to each of them for the emotional suffering. Today's a good day, Ms. Freeman told reporters after the jury delivered its determination. But she added that no amount of money would give her and her daughter back what they lost in the abuse they suffered after Mr. Giuliani falsely accused them of manipulating the voter count. Mr. Giuliani, I don't know why they're trying to call him Mr. Giuliani like he fancy. Rudy, and we're going to call him Rudy in this. Rudy, who helped lead Mr. Trump's effort to remain in office after his defeat in the 2020 election, but has endured a string of legal and financial setbacks since then. Was defiant after the proceeding. I don't regret a damn thing, he said outside of the courthouse, suggesting that he would appeal and that he stood by his assertions about the two women. He said that the torrent of attacks and threats the women received from Trump supporters were abominable and deplorable, but that he was not responsible for them. His lawyer, Joseph Sibley IV, had argued that Mr. Giuliani, the former New York mayor and federal prosecutor, should not be held responsible for abuse directed to Ms. Freeman and Ms. Moss by others. Mr. Sibley had warned that an award of that scale being sought by the women would be the civil equivalent of the death penalty for his client. All right, whatever. Outside the courthouse on Friday, Rudy called the amount absurd. Rudy's net worth is unknown because he refuses to comply with the court's requirement to provide that information. A lawyer familiar with his legal situation said after the verdict that Rudy was likely to file for bankruptcy protection, of course. But because the damages he owes Ms. Freeman and Ms. Moss are considered intentional tort bankruptcy, it would not erase his liability, lawyers said. The case brought against Rudy was one of a series of lawsuits in which plaintiffs have sought to use defamation claims to hold people accountable for lying about the 2020 election. Dominion Voting Systems wrested a $787.5 million settlement out of Fox News earlier this year after suing the media giant for promoting lies that its voting machines were used in a conspiracy to flip votes away from Mr. Trump to Joseph R. Biden. Is there anything else I need to really read out? Oh, yeah, I do want to read this part. I'm going to skip that part. Skip. Okay, over hours of emotional testimony during the civil trial in Washington, Ms. Freeman and Ms. Moss described how their lives had been completely upended after December 3rd, 2020, when Rudy first suggested that they had engaged in election fraud to tilt the result against Donald Trump in Georgia, a critical swing state. The women who were Black and our mother and daughter were soon flooded with expletive-laden phone calls and messages, threats, and racist attacks, they testified. People said they should be hanged for treason or lynched. Others told them they fantasized about hearing the sound of their neck snapping. They showed up to Ms. Freeman's home. They tried to execute a citizen's arrest of Ms. Moss at her grandmother's house. They called Ms. Moss's 14-year-old son's cell phone so much that it interfered with his virtual classes, and he finished his first year of high school with failing grades. This all started with one tweet, Ms. Freeman told the jury, referring to a social media post from Rudy saying, "Watch, video footage from Georgia shows suitcases filled with ballots pulled from under the table after supervisors told poll workers to leave the room and 4 people stayed behind to keep counting the votes." Rudy did not testify at the trial. He said afterward, it was because if I made a mistake or did anything wrong, he thought the judge would have told him, or the judge would hold him in contempt or put him in jail. And I thought, honestly, it wouldn't do me any good. Rudy is under indictment in Georgia, where local prosecutor has also brought racketeering charges against him. Well, he got a lot going Mr. Trump and others in connection with their efforts to overturn the former president's election laws. Let's see. That's about it. Okay. Anyway, well, one, they're probably never seen that money because Rudy ain't got it, but I don't care. The thing that I find very, very interesting with all of this is because for me, this is all very, very layered. If you remember their testimony when they were also doing like the Senate hearings that they had, where you're talking about all the things that happened and just how crazy people were, it really goes to show that, again, when we're talking about the results of this past election, the nonsense we'll see in 2024, and just the United States in general, when we really talk about that conversation of race, it's a nasty slope, right? Because in all reality, there's nothing more dangerous than a collective of angry white people. Like, and really what Rudy Giuliani did is he decided to harp in on the emotional outrage of white voters that were pissed that Trump did not win, right? And so you latch on to the whole idea of trying to criminalize these people that are doing their jobs and painting them out to be public enemy number one, painting them out to be these people that are conspiring against the major movement, which would have been the re-election of Trump or whatever, and everything else like that. And so you end up getting people who are emotional, and you throw in the element of racism and everything else like that. And this is when you see that nasty side come out. This is when you see people showing up to their houses and giving the death threats. And even with the racial epithets, okay, they want to hear the sound of neck snapping and lynching. Like, they know exactly what they're doing. It's so funny how people get on code when it's time to get on code. But again, going back to what I said, the idea again of there's nothing more dangerous than a collective of white folks. Like, this is what you see in history. This is how we ended up with all the race massacres. This is how you got Coe, Florida. That's what we saw in Rosewood. That's how we had the Red Summer of 1919, where you had over 30, not 36, but 3 dozen, a little over 3 dozen, I want to say 38, about 38 different race massacres in the United States aimed at Black individuals and Black citizens, all between, I want to say, April and about early September of 1919, all aimed at Black folks. And this is after World War I. We've kind of had that conversation. It kind of even jumps into some of what you see happen with Tulsa as well, where you have a lot of angry men who come back from World War I. They're shell-shocked. They've been in the trenches. They got all kind of mental illnesses and PTSD. A lot of them can't work, and a lot of them are struggling financially. And here are all of these Black neighborhoods that are thriving because Black people have become self-sufficient due to things like segregation and Jim Crow laws. Black people collectively had to work as a unit in order to get things done. So Black people are flourishing with what it is that they have. They're not rich. They're not super wealthy. You do have places like Black Wall Street, or, you know, what's happening with Tulsa and some places in North Carolina. But a lot of these Black establishments were people that were just getting by, doing well enough to get by. But for white folks, that was too much stuff they weren't supposed to have. So what do? You go and you go burn it, or you try and find all kind of reasons to accuse somebody on that side of town of doing something to one of your folks. And then you go in there with pitchforks and burn everything down. So yes, when you have a collective of angry white folks, you start getting violence. This is how we get movements. This is how we've gotten Moms for Liberty. Right? They'll hide behind the guise of being concerned parents, all about the children and their well-being, when in reality, they're getting behind every racist policy you can think of. They're trying to push everything that they can push. This is how we got the Proud Boys, right? Proud Boys emerged. Why? Because you got a bunch of pissed off white men mad at the world. Somebody got to pay, so let's get together and get our anger together, and somebody's going to pay. Somebody's going to catch it. This is how we got the Klan. Civil War ends in 1865. What group emerges in 1865, right? You end up getting the freaking Klan, right? Then think about the Klan and how the Klan had multiple waves, right? You have Birth of a Nation come out in 1920, and this is the whole hero movie where the Klan member is the hero and they protect the woman from the angry, crazy, monster-like Black men that are just brutes that are running around. And so that movie, which was screened at the White House, y'all love to give Woodrow Wilson his flowers, and he's a terrible person too, right? This movie is screened, and what happens? The Klan enrollment reaches its highest peak it will ever reach. Skyrockets, right? Skyrockets. And mind you, this is after, again, that summer, that Red Summer of 1919, right? So you're still reeling from that, right? People are still in some adrenaline. Because the other thing, too, when you get caught up in some nonsense, like think about if you've ever, and this is not a great example, but think about if you've ever gotten a fight and won, right? You are on a high, right? Who else wants it? Who else wants it? Who's next, right? Same energy. Then look at the next wave. Look, enrollment and stuff starts to die down a little bit, and then when does it skyrocket back up? When we get to the civil rights movement. So every time there was kickback, or every time there was something that could collectively go against the grain of what white Americans collectively wanted, you see how they move. So then you get the Klan enrollment, right? This is why you see things like people showing up to school board meetings with AR-15s. If you're that pressed about what's happening at the schools, take your child out to school. right? You can always go to a different school district. You can transfer, but no, they show up with AR-15s. And I'm like, what's supposed to happen? Are you going to shoot the school board if they vote on something that you don't agree with? Make that make sense, right? And again, the biggest thing you can always see is you can just look at voting patterns, right? I always have this joke sometimes. Like when I see like white folks be pissed off about something, I say, they're going to make us pay for this in the election. Wait till that next election. They're going to show us. Like that's really how it moves. And so understand, when you have a collective of people that think they have been wronged by a group of people that they see as beneath them, then that's when you get problems. And because these two women were black, a lot of the people who were outraged about Georgia going blue, all of the energy went to them. And Rudy Giuliani knew that. He knew he had that kind of power in his hand. And that's why he had the dog whistles. And, you know, the conversation with the two of them when they said, with the mother and daughter, they passed each other the ginger mint. And he said they were passing crack. Right? They're passing crack to each other, which for me is so stupid because one, I'm not even trying to be a jokester here, but understand people that are addicted to crack don't share. First of all, this ain't gonna be no, hey, what you doing? Let me pay you. You want some? Yeah, no, because you're so strung out on it. You want all of it for yourself. You're not sharing, right? But again, even that conversation of crack, that even goes back to the conversation of imaging and who became the face of crack usage in the United States. When in reality, 2/3 of crack users in the United States have always been white, but they painted Black Americans to be the face of that. And then even when you're talking about the logistics and what happened with prosecutions, you can look at a place like Los Angeles and the fact that not a single white person was ever convicted of a crack felony in Los Angeles. But when you're talking about Black crack users that had been convicted, the numbers were astronomical. Then we get into that conversation of crack versus cocaine and mandatory minimums. We could be here all day, but understand that all this crap is coded and layered. And Rudy Giuliani knew exactly what he was doing. And he knew that by rallying up that same demographic that felt that they had been done wrong, because, you know, for them, they're like, we saw Orange Man having these big rallies and there 20,000 people at the arena and 30,000 people here. And then, you know, Joe Biden is having his rally at the nursing home and ain't but 6 people in there. So there's no way this man could have won Georgia. And so, yes, paint the entire thing to be the fault of these two women and paint a whole narrative of, oh, they're trying to rig and steal the election. And I've said this so many times on the lives. People with common sense aren't pressed about any of these politicians to the point where they're willing to risk their livelihood and go to jail for these politicians, not including the Trump MAGA demographic. That's another conversation because at this point, that's not even political. That's like a religious cult. They worship the ground that man walks on, which is why he's still the GOP frontrunner. Interesting, right? And so it's just, it's, you know, it's a mess. And so he was able to push that out there and paint these two women as disposable, which is why nobody had any regard for their well-being, which is why it was easy for people to show up at their houses, give them death threats, threaten their children. Imagine somebody showing up to your door talking about a citizen's arrest. What? Okay, that would be the day I really stand my ground then. Okay, yeah, I might be a hashtag, but it won't be in memory of. It's going to be because y'all going to have to put some money on my bail. Like, what? Get out of here. And so it's just interesting to see how all of it, you know, just kind of goes together. Like, that man is just cuckoo. So I am glad that they have put fire under this man's feet. Now, it sucks because they're probably not going to see that money because he doesn't have it. But I hope every dollar and penny he has goes away. Like, because that is just one loony man. He's just cuckoo, right? And it's so crazy because I think if you're from New York, you've always known this man was an ish. But for people like myself who are not from New York, like my introduction to Rudy Giuliani would have been like after 9/11. I know he had been the mayor for a long time, but I was living in Washington State, okay? I wasn't paying attention to what was happening in New York City. So, you know, the imaging that I had of Rudy Giuliani at the time was like, oh, because they were like, he's America's mayor. And, you know, they were really gassing him up after 9/11 when really he ain't did a whole lot. He was just doing some photo ops and he was in the way with a lot of stuff. But he was painted to be this hero. So for years, I saw him as this wonderful, upstanding guy that, you know, he brought New York back. And then I had no idea about all the scandals and everything else that happened. And by the time Barack Obama got in there and Rudy started hitting the press trails, I was like, wait, something is wrong. What's going on with this dude? And so, man, may he receive all the energy that he has put out into the world, right? It's just absolutely a mess. His image is shot. And even that lawyer, I don't know if you saw the lawyer, but the lawyer had this interesting haircut. Like, picture if I cut all this off and I kept this little patch right here. The lawyer had this little patch right here, like a cockatoo. He just had like the cockatoo do. And I'm like, I should have known he was going to lose them when I saw the lawyer. I said, yeah, Rudy ain't got no money. He hurting. Hot mess. But no, that was terrible what happened to those two women. And really, it's reflective of a bigger conversation because you have so many people who have no interest in ever being a poll worker again, because it's become so tribal. Politics in the United States has become very tribal, and it's because it's centered around race. It's not even about policy at this point. It's really about maintaining a status quo that's centered around whiteness, and that conversation of whiteness being a power structure and backed by the collective of white Americans in this country. And anything that's going to challenge or threaten that automatically must be dismantled, which is why you see so much kickback anytime one of these cuckoo people don't win an election, whether it be at the state level with somebody like a Carey Lake, who is still trying to claim that she won in Arizona. Ma'am, you lost, let it go. But she is going to keep running with that because people will stand behind it. And the funniest bit is a lot of these people know all these folks are lying. But again, in order to maintain that status quo, they have no problem getting behind some BS because it means they're going to get what it is that they want at the expense of everybody else. So who cares about the truth? And so we've watched the goalposts move so many different ways and so many different times when it comes to these politics. And yes, don't ask me about 2024. I'm not looking forward to it. It's about to be an S-word show, right? Let me pause and read some comments. I said a whole lot real fast, but y'all know I get in my pocket. I start talking too fast. I know Giuliani, that somebody punch him in the heart so we can be on our way. A gingerman. Now it's crack. Now people, I ain't never seen, I don't like using the phrase crackhead, so I ain't never seen a crack user share their crack in my life. Yep, sorry. That ain't never been a thing. No, that stuff is so addictive for people that are on it. They don't share that crap. So what you mean they passing around? Who's going to bring crack to the polls and do work? They're going to be high counting the ballots. Just saying anything. It's stupid. They can't even talk trash correctly. He's trying to fry up people and can't even fry you up right. All right. Felicia Bolden, hi. Thanks for coming on tonight. Can we talk about how bad Real Housewives of Potomac is this season? Yeah, I have not even seen that show. I don't really follow it. Just kidding, not worth discussing. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't really. I do pay attention to some of the Housewives shows, but I haven't paid attention to that. Let me see. Soulful said, not you pre-defending your car. Yeah, I ain't about to fire up my car. My car's been good to me. It's been real good. What up, Raywin? I was gonna ask if your mom whooped you for deading her car. That's my car, but my mom's in Jamaica living it up right now. Like, imagine that. I was gonna plot and go surprise my mama for the holidays. She was like, "I'm in Jamaica. What you doing in Jamaica?" Because she called me on WhatsApp. I'm like, "Why are you calling me on WhatsApp?" "Oh, I'm in Jamaica." "What you doing over there?" But you know, her fiance's from Manderville, so yeah, she out there living it up. Now I did say, because she said they was gonna have a big party. I said, Mom, I want you to be careful now, because you know the Jamaican men, when they do that party, do not let one of the men pick you up and doing all that other stuff, because I'm not coming out there because they done messed up your sciatic nerve. You better be careful. All right. But no, she'll have a good time. His family's real cool. Yeah, so I won't be visiting her for the holiday. Veronica said, how hard was it to do a new battery? It wasn't even, I wish I would have just gone and just bought one and done it myself to save the time. But again, like, the thing about like being in DC, you have to always go to Virginia and Maryland to get a lot of stuff, because there's not a, well, actually, no, that's not true. There's an AutoZone on 8th Street, but yeah, and then trying to get there, there's not even you can do it, but yeah, it's just easier sometimes to just pay somebody. But yeah, a mess. Plus, I am technically house ready, okay? Like, house ready, like I'm ready to buy and purchase. So I'm not making any large purchases like a new car or anything anytime soon. I'm just waiting for these interest rates to go back down a little bit, and then homeowner it is, because this rent, I'm over it. I'm so over it. How did Giuliani manage to ruin his legacy so badly? It's so funny. I think Giuliani thought he had the same kind of pull somebody like Trump has. As much as I can't stand Trump, Trump knows how to work his core base and his core demographic to the point where they worship the ground he walks on. Giuliani can never do that because people don't see any leverage with Giuliani. There's nothing he offers them. For people that are obsessed with Trump, at least in the conversation of whiteness, they feel vindicated by him being in power. Rudy Giuliani is just the stupid sidekick that's a little slow, that runs and hangs out. You know, it's kind of like he's if you have the entertainer, he's the one friend in the entourage that be trying to use the proximity to that entertainer to act like he has some pull. Like, oh yeah, y'all know I run with Jay-Z. Think about like when the rappers used to go to the award shows and they bring 20 people on the stage when they would win, and person number 19, who nobody knows, they haven't written any song, they haven't produced anything, they're not even a driver, they do nothing, they're not even a hype man during the show. All right, they just the barber's best friend. They got to go on the stage too. That's Rudy Giuliani. So no matter what happens, he thought he could do all the foolishness and people would get behind him, but he just ended up looking stupid. Everything from the hair dye running all down his face, him being in the Borat movie where it was the prostitute lady and he was down here unzipping, getting ready for the girl to come, and he didn't realize he was on camera. And then the one time where they tried to book the hotel suite to do the press conference, but they didn't book the hotel. They booked some auto mechanic shop, and now they setting up at a parking garage with the junked cars in the background. I said, this man is so stupid. Just stupid. And these are the people y'all be putting up in the front to be the face of intelligence. Just make it make sense. Oh, Lord. My God, make it make sense. And I don't know if y'all ever, I don't normally judge people's physical appearance, but if you ever see them zoom in on, this man ain't flossed, these teeth here look like, oh, it's all kind of stuff in between. I know that breath is, ooh, I can smell it from here. He just sloppy. Just sloppy looking. All that money, just, ugh. Ms. Williams said the Proud Boys have mixed race folks in it too. Right, and we see who ended up doing the jail time, right? The one person that had a hint of brown in him was the first one to go down at the big level. And mind you, folks who sit there and align with that, understand you can have people who look just like us that are still a mouthpiece for white supremacy. Those are the ones who tend to try to climb the furthest, so they have no problem compromising themselves in their collective. But really, they don't see themselves being a part of a black collective anyway, as far as people who align with white nationalists. So there's that, right? It's a weird time. Just the guy said, my son is homeschooled. Exactly. Like if you got a problem with what's happening with the school board and you have the capacity to do homeschool, go and do that rather than showing up to a school board meeting with an AR-15 because you don't like that they have a book in there about Ruby Bridges. Like how stupid do you look? Maverick Cuss said, well, someone did offer to share the coke with me a couple of months ago, but not crack. And then this is, I'm not trying to put jokes in here, but no, this is like, even when you're talking about the conversation of crack users and cocaine users, we know a lot of times there's a conversation of affluence, right? So a lot of times people that have a coke habit can support theirs. People that have a crack habit a lot of times can't support theirs. I'm only speaking on this because I have a lot of people in my family that have been past users. And these are the times where sometimes, you know, you couldn't leave stuff around because, you know, they were still, I always think back on my dad's side. We had a relative pass and I had another relative at the funeral. And that relative is always so dramatic, right? And so they decided they were going to pass out while we were all standing up. And they were trying to pass out and follow my dad. But my dad was already ignored. So my dad moved out the way and let them fall on the floor. So then they got up and left and went back to the house. And then when we got back to the house, everybody's purse was cleaned out, right? And then they were sitting there with their bag. That's why I keep my stuff with me. You don't know who to trust. It's just like, you know what? You love them, but hey, family is, hey, everybody comes from something. So, man. All right. Yeah, Rudy is going down in infamy. He has destroyed whatever little legacy he had left, right? Hot mess. Yeah, that was when my dad's brother died. And then, yeah, that relative was doing a whole lot. My dad, I'm not doing this with you. He let them fall right on out because it's like, all right, man. Yes, cleaned out the purses. Cleaned out all the stuff. All right, anyway, let us jump to, another foolery story here. Hannah Payne. I've been meaning to get her. All right, let me read another article real quick and then we'll talk. All right, here we go. Pull this right on up. Hannah Payne, Clayton County, Georgia. Hannah Payne, the 25-year-old woman found guilty in the death of 62-year-old Kenneth Herring in Clayton County, will spend the rest of her life behind bars with a chance of parole. Payne, handcuffed and wearing her prison uniform, was overcome with emotion as the judge sentenced her to life in prison with the possibility of parole, plus 8 and 5 years to be served consecutively. That means they got to follow and follow. You can't do them all at the same time. That's right. A Clayton County jury convicted Payne of felony murder, malice murder, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and 3 charges of weapons possession during a crime on Wednesday. The case got national attention, but Clayton County District Attorney Mosley says they do not believe the murder was race-related, which is some nonsense. I don't want to hear that, but whatever. She's in jail now. She called the sentence a victory and says even Payne eventually gets parole. eventually gets, I'm like I can't read. She called the sentence a victory and says even if Payne eventually gets parole, she will still have to serve at least 43 years. In our mind, when you look at 43 years and you're 25, all your good years are gone, she said. My thing with that is the man that she killed is dead. He doesn't have any more years, but whatever. Prosecutors investigating the death threats against families. Let's keep going. Let's see. After the sentencing, the Clayton County District Attorney Tasha Mosley told Fox 5 that her office is investigating multiple death threats against both families connected to the trial. Mosley said the intensity of the threats led her office to open an investigation into who sent the messages. Prosecutors accused Payne of playing cop in 2019 when she followed Herring after he left the scene of a crash she was not directly involved in. Payne cut him off and eventually shot him. The defense claimed Payne acted in self-defense because after confronting Herring, she claimed that he started attacking her. Payne took the stand in her own defense during the murder trial. She said there was a state officer present at the initial crash of which she was a witness. She claimed that the officer told her and another witness at the scene outright that Herring was inebriated. At some point, Payne said Herring started revving his engine and pulled away from the scene of the initial crash. She testified that at the time, she was on the phone with a 911 dispatcher who asked if she had been able to grab his tag number. She said when she realized she hadn't and thought no one else did either, she got in her car. She told the court that Terry Robinson, the man she believed to be the state officer, told her to go, insinuating he wanted her to follow Herring. Oh, I can't wait to finish reading this. At one point, Payne testified that Herring's car stopped in a turning lane. She said she exited her vehicle and approached Herring with her phone on speaker to show that she was in contact with 911. She said she told him the dispatcher asked both of them to return to the original accident site. She then told the court that Herring grabbed her shirt and her wrist and pulled her into the vehicle, and she saw her light flash before her eyes. Additionally, she claimed Herring appeared to be reaching behind his front seats before mashing the gas and crashing into her car. It was at that time she drew out her gun. Payne claimed Herring tried to take the gun from her and it went off. She also claimed that her finger was never on the trigger. Despite her testimony, it only took jurors 2 hours to reach a verdict, finding her guilty on all accounts. Okay, Hannah, let's get to you. I need a sip before I do this nonsense. All right, so if you saw the video of her getting the sentence, it shows her doing the boo-hooing and everything. And for me, it's like, Hannah, I'm sorry, keep them tears. Because in reality, back in 2019, when she first was arraigned, she came in that courtroom smiling. Smiling because she thought she was about to get off on this. Smiling because she thought this crap was a joke. So don't sit here and try to do all the crying and stuff now. You don't get any empathy or sympathy from me. You know, it does suck that you chose at 21 to go and take somebody else's life into your own hands, and now you have to pay the consequence. But that's a choice you made. And so, no, you get no sympathy from me. And then the piece that gets me the most, standing and testifying and saying that the guy that you thought was the officer told you to go. Since when does a police officer ever tell a civilian who is not a part of anything to go and pursue somebody who's temporarily a suspect, right? The police are never going to do that. And the logic of trying to piece together that story to make it make sense, officer told you to go. Why would he tell you to go and follow somebody? That, if anything, that's what the officer would do. And then you stupid enough to go and do it. But it has nothing to do with that because she already had a vendetta and was ready to go and do that anyway. Because, again, we had that space of people who have an obsession with wanting to be a hero, right? And then the same conversation of her life flashed before her eyes. I said, how many times have we heard this? We've heard that with so many different officers that go and shoot people unarmed all the time. Every single time it involves Black people, everybody's life flashes before their eyes, right? Their life never flashes before their eyes when they're the aggressor, when they go and start some stuff. But the minute they think somebody's responding, now all of a sudden they've seen everything. They remember the birth canal, remember their high school graduation, and when they had to bury their puppy, all of a sudden the whole life has just flashed before their eyes. I'm like, cut the crap. And really what it is, it goes back to the thing where you have a lot of people in this country, and I'm speaking specifically about white America, where it's just embedded that they feel that they have the right to police Black people. It's always been that, because when you talk about the logistics of what actually happened, so yes, there was some kind of car accident, but at the same time, the man was having a health crisis. They believe it was some kind of diabetic coma, some kind of something, which is why he tried to go and get help and pull off with everything, because one, he had already waited for the police when the initial accident took place. It had been 20, 25 minutes. Nobody had gotten there yet, and then that's why he pulled off because of whatever was happening with his health emergency that he was having. But again, that idea of thinking that you have the right to go and pretty much deputize yourself and be in charge of everybody, it's embedded in the grain of America. Even when you go back to things like the black codes or the fugitive slave laws, understand that every white citizen in America was deputized in order to enforce things like the black codes or the fugitive slave laws. Or even when we talk about what happened in Tulsa, when the riot initially took place, or I'm not even going to call it riot, when the massacre took place, when the white folks on the white side of town came and started burning up the black people stuff, every white male and white child and white woman was deputized. They now had permission to act as the authority. They had permission to be police. They had permission to do whatever they wanted with no consequence. And this is why that entire area was burned down. This is why all those people were shot and killed, right? Because these people knew that there was going to be no consequence to any of their actions, right? And that's because a lot of these people are brought up to believe that they are the standard of everything. And they're brought up to believe that they own everybody and everything. And they're brought up to believe that they are the standard of existence and morality, right? And because of that, they get to do whatever it is that they want to do to anybody. And this is why we get people like Barbecue Becky and, Coupon Carl and the Karens and the Permit Patties. And, we get the people who treat 911 like customer service, right? You get the people who know what happens when they utilize the police against certain folks. You get an Amy Cooper who can sit there and blatantly lie and claim that a man is attacking her because he asked her, hey, can you put a leash on your dog? But her knowing how the system in this country works, she knows that by her being a white woman being confronted by this really tall black man while she's with her dog, she can claim that she's being attacked in the park because it's easy to believe, which is how you end up getting something like the Central Park 5. And boom, you get these 5 kids who all of a sudden are accused of a sexual assault and a vicious crime that they weren't even at the park for, even to the point where one of the kids was at home. They were spending the night at the friend's house. And when the police came to go pick up all these random kids and said, hey, you come on too. Next thing you know, this kid's being interrogated. And somehow they have coerced this kid to confess to a crime that he wasn't even there for, right? Crazy. And so this is how you get all of the nonsense, right? This is why you also get people who like to impersonate police. Like, I would love to see some research along the lines of race of what the demographics look like when it comes to people who are convicted or at least charged of assault or impersonating a police officer, because I am sure that those numbers are very skewed in the direction of one demographic. Because again, that idea of thinking you own everybody, that idea of thinking that you have an authoritative disposition over everybody, and because you said so, everybody is supposed to submit to what it is that you say and what you do. This is why we have so many vigilantes running around. This is why we get George Zimmermans running around. And I think she thought that she was going to get the George Zimmerman treatment. She thought that she was going to be able to get off just like Zimmerman. And so you use all of the right phrases. Just like Zimmerman, his life flashed before his eyes, even though he's the person with the gun, right? Her life flashed before her eyes. Like, understand, you saw a car accident. Now, it's one thing to get a license plate. I totally understand that. Like, you could have gone and got the license plate. And even with this stupid story of the police officer telling you to go, even if you would have gone, which I still think was stupid, you would have thought that you would have gone, pulled over somewhere where you could see the plate in sight, write it down, and report it that way. But no, you take it amongst yourself to bring your gun over to this man's car. Because understand, if you're looking at it this way, most likely she came to that man's car with her gun aimed at him, all right, and everything else like that. Anybody with common sense is going to grab the gun or do something. You're not about to just sit here and point no gun in my face. He doesn't know what's happening, which would explain why he's accelerating. You're sticking your face in his car window while you have a vehicle. So yes, he's going to put his foot on the gas because he doesn't know what you're trying to do. Right? And then you shoot him, talking about your life flash before your eyes. Y'all always want to be a hero until it's time to really do the dirty work. When stuff gets down and you realize you're about to lose the battle, you get scared. And I don't think he did anything. I think more so she just started shooting. He drove off in a panic and she started shooting because she saw herself getting ready to get dragged by that car. She didn't want that kind of smoke. And it's just, you see the nonsense. The demographic of people who think that they can police black folks, it's just embedded in the foundation of this country where, again, when it comes to black folks, we have to literally just be in fight or flight mode all the time, because the minute we step outside the house, we know that we're prone to run into some nonsense, right? And going back to the same thing with Rudy Giuliani and his nonsense, going back to the 2 poll workers, again, 2 women that did their jobs and now they're in fight or flight mode every day because there's an entire demographic of the country that hate them and want to see their necks broken. Right? This is what the world that people are living under. And then a lot of times people think they're doing good. This is how you end up with like the Tuhoy folks, so thinking about the movie The Blind Side and the guy that's suing because he's like, okay, y'all adopted me, but all this nonsense. But remember that post we talked about where the white woman who she was played by Sandra Bullock, they were at the cafe or the dinner, right? Her and her friend, and they saw the group of black teenagers sitting there, and the friend was like, I bet they're up to no good. And she's like, oh no, I have an adopted black son. I can prove to you that they are not doing anything wrong. And then she goes over there and what are you guys up to? What are you guys doing? You need to tell me now or I'll have the police on the phone. And then they tell the lady, like, we were just trying to put our money together to see if we had enough food. And so then she's like, oh, okay. And then lets everything slide. And then they take a big group picture about it. And then she posts it on Facebook like it's a hero's award. Like, this is the nonsense again. Everybody thinking that they own our livelihood, thinking that they're supposed to they get to call the shots on everything, right? Blackness is policed at every level, everything from our hair, how we dress, how we speak, what we do, where we go, where we're allowed to live. I'm going to get to y'all in a minute, Navy Federal. But, again, that conversation of just authoritative disposition. This is how we got Ahmaud Arbery, right? Again, people not being able to mind their effing business and going and they see somebody who they think doesn't belong and they feel that that person must answer to them. So here they go chasing somebody with a shotgun and they don't understand why he's running, right? So then they feel justified in killing him. And then their justification of killing this man is, oh, there were some break-ins in the neighborhood weeks ago and, this man has just been running. And then, I had a boat and my gun had gone missing out of the boat. Right. And I have a daughter and they start piecing together everything that has nothing to do with Ahmaud Arbery. And by the time we get to the trial, now the defense lawyers are saying that Ahmaud Arbery had dirty socks on. So it justifies him being shot. Stupidity. Right. It reminds me of this one time. I remember, and this is an experience for a lot of black kids who grow up in areas where there's not a whole lot of black folks in general. Right. So I think back to being in middle school. I used to go to Cedar Crest Junior High and school is kind of, it wasn't super diverse, but it was still a majority white school. But we had enough where you had enough for the black table. So at lunch, there was always that table of black kids that got together. That's another conversation. You can always read like Beverly Daniel Tatum's book, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? That's in response to the people who always question why do people kind of segregate themselves collectively when they choose who they want to associate with when they're in school as far as sitting at the lunch tables. But anyway, we always had the black table, right? And anybody was invited to sit at this table, right? But, all the black folks, this is the one time we could all get together because most of the time we didn't have classes together. So that 30 minutes of lunch is, you get to kick it with your friends and we're going to talk about what happened on 106 in Park. And did you see what happened on Boston Public yesterday? And man, I can't believe Diddy made them walk for the cheesecake. Like all that kind of stuff. But there was this lady, Miss Spencer. Miss Spencer was this white lady. Miss Spencer used to come. I got to do it. Miss Spencer would come. The table would be where I'm at. Miss Spencer would come and just stand here right over us. 30 minutes, right? Just standing over us. 30 minutes. And as soon as it was that 29 minute, it's time for you guys to go to class. It's time for you guys to go to class. And she would just stand and just hug. And she leaning all over your chair and just all in the conversation. And we're like, what is this lady doing? Right. And so we used to be petty because then we start having some real conversation at the table. Don't sleep on these middle schools and stuff. They be knowing what's happening in the world. But we used to start having some real conversations just to see how far into the conversation she would be. And one day she tried to give us a lecture on hypocrisy, right? Because we were talking about, what was it? I want to say this was around the time of the DC sniper shooter, which was already embarrassing because the dude was from Tacoma, Washington. I was like, dang, it's always somebody from my state. But we were talking about the guy, and I don't even remember the full conversation, but I know we had some kind of jokes or something. And I remember somebody said something about like, oh, well, he definitely getting a death penalty because he's black or something. But so anyway, she jumped into, you guys know what hypocrisy is. I've heard so much racism coming from this table. And I'm like, well, maybe if you go watch the other ones, you can hear what the kids on other tables are saying. Because understand, we had a whole bunch of race issues at this school. But man, Miss Spencer used to get on our nerves. But for some reason, she felt that she had to just stand and watch us. Now, mind you, this was a school of like 800 students. And I want to say each lunch had about 300 plus kids at lunch, right? Maybe like 270, 290. So there's all these tables you can watch. But she stayed watching our table. And half the time we weren't doing nothing. But she felt she needed to monitor us. And every time there was a fight, it was never from my table, right? It was always some other stuff. Minus if you follow the podcast and you heard the earthquake story, the only fight that ever came from our table was this girl, Valerie, who beat up this girl, Shelly, but it was well-deserved. Other than that, and we had an earthquake the next day. But man, again, that conversation of thinking that you just get to dictate how everybody is supposed to move. So sucks for her. She really just threw away her whole life, right? 21 years old, doing some dumb stuff, right? And it's like, think about like when you're 21, you're supposed to be plotting and planning what you and your friends are supposed to be doing tonight, where y'all going to go, what bar y'all going to meet at. You can finally show that your ID done flipped horizontally, so now you can actually go and purchase drinks legally. Y'all supposed to be doing all that, right? You're supposed to be mapping out what's next, building your career. You know, you're still supposed to be having your fun and dating and doing all the wild stuff, right? Having a great time and waking up at 4 in the afternoon. But you decided you wanted to be G.I. Jane, Law and Order, SVU, and go and chase after somebody, and now you've thrown your entire life away. And the funniest bit was the hearing for the sentencing, where that lady who was the family friend goes up there and she's like, she's not racist. Her boyfriend in high school was black, and she's been in a relationship with a man that's Dominican. I said, y'all love to do this. Listen, it doesn't matter who's, what you sit on. It doesn't matter. If you're racist, you're racist, okay? Like, I don't want to hear that crap. Nonsense. So learn to just mind your business. Like I say at the end of a lot of these videos and these lives, mind your business so that you can age well. And unfortunately for her, she's going to shrivel up in that cell. So best of luck, but not really. All right, let's read the chat. Ooh, Miss Spencer. I wonder what she's up to. It's time to, and that's how her voice was too. It's time to go inside. Like, leave us alone. Like, Lord. Make sure you pick up your trash. All right. Okay. You guys are too loud. We in the cafeteria. Like, we supposed to be loud. You want us to whisper? If we start doing sign language, you're going to say we're throwing up gang signs. Like, Lord. Make it make sense. All right, let's see here. What are we talking about? Tyler said, I was born after 9/11. Yes, I know I might have not even been born. So I know him as Trump's lackey. Yeah, that's interesting. It is a generational conversation when you're talking about Rudy Giuliani, because I think New Yorkers, especially those around in the 80s, see him very differently than somebody like me who would have been like 12 or 13 when 9/11 happened. I think I was 13 when 9/11 happened. Let's see. Exactly. Those two women's lives will never be the same. And the woman even talked about how she had to change her hairstyle so she wouldn't be as easily identifiable, because because people, and this is about the two women that just got all that money that they're probably not going to get from Rudy Giuliani. Because the election from 2020, as we know, was so crazy. And I mean, we had a whole insurrection, right? Understand that the faces of these two women were posted on blogs, websites, all over Twitter, all over YouTube videos and everything. And these two women's faces were plastered everywhere. And I think for a lot of us who don't live in that cuckoo world of QAnon and conspiracy this and everybody's out to get, those of us who just live our lives and mind our business, we don't realize just how intense that crap was and how so many people are literally just, this is their sense of purpose in regard to spewing out a bunch of nonsense. And this is how you get Pizzagate, and somebody shows up at a pizza restaurant with a gun talking about where's the basement, and the building doesn't even have a basement, but they've been on these websites and they were convinced that there's a pizza restaurant that was trafficking children in the basement, right? Like, understand that you have so many people who live in the threads of some of the internet, right? And they will take things amongst themselves and by any means necessary fight against this enemy that they think is out to get them. This is how you end up getting people trying to plot and kidnap the governor of a whole state, right? Governor of Michigan, like the nonsense, right? And so understand that these women were barraged with nonsense. Like, I can't equate it to it, but like, even on YouTube, if I make a video and I really light into white folks collectively on some nonsense, every now and then the video gets legs. And it's one thing to get legs, and you're going to get people who don't agree, or they're like, oh, I wish you wouldn't speak this way, or oh man, you're really making the racism jump out. I'm like, no, I'm just speaking about how things are systemically, and I'm speaking from a structured standpoint. This is not about you as an individual, but we're talking about a bigger picture. But every now and then you'll end up getting into a space where my videos find their ways on these white nationalist, white supremacist forums, and then all of a sudden they get into formation and they come and swarm the channel. And before you know it, I got 500 comments and I'm all kind of monkeys and apes. That's just YouTube. So imagine somebody like Giuliani going on Fox News and Newsmax and OAN and all the other platforms they have and constantly saying that these women were cheating and bringing in ballots and they're passing crack and there's a whole conspiracy against Trump and blah, 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 blah. Like, nonsense. Them women went through some nonsense. So, man, it's crazy out here. Speak on it, Iron Will. Speak on it. All right. Just the guy said, he's going to be begging Trump for money, and Trump is not going to give him anything. That's the stupidest thing. You were so pressed to run behind Trump. Trump don't even like him. Can you imagine that? You've thrown away your everything running behind this man, and he don't even like Giuliani. He'll use him to get what he needs, but Giuliani is of no use to Trump at this point. Trump couldn't care less, right? Trump ain't thinking about no Giuliani. Remember, again, going back to my little scenario about the rappers in the entourage and everything else like that, understand people in the entourage be getting cut over time, right? Giuliani been cut. right? And as soon as the fire started coming to Trump's feet, the way he started cutting off everybody, I don't know who that person is. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know them that well. I don't know any of these people. What are you guys talking about? Oh, everybody, if they'll do it to you, then they'll do it to you. I don't know these people. Like, man. Queen said, Calvin, that man got gingivitis. You please, when you get a chance, just Google and look at the teeth. Like, look at all in between the gut. I mean, it's all kind of black stuff, and it's looking wild up in there. I don't know what that's about. He at one point had too much money to be looking like that. That's nasty. And they want to buy prostitutes and stuff. I feel sorry for those workers. I hope they earn their money. I hope he paid them well. My God. All right. Hannah Payne. That's the name. Yes. All right. Let's see. Y'all are lighting it up in here, huh? Thank you, Nappy Child. And then she got to be on bail for the entire time. She said she's been out on bail since 2019. Karen privilege. Like, exactly. You shoot somebody and get to go home, right? You shoot somebody and get to go home. There's folks who've been, it makes me think to Khalif Browder, right? Accused of stealing a backpack. What did they do to him? They sent him to Rikers Island for 2.5 years. And that's before he even went to trial. That's just waiting to go to trial, right? Nonsense. Accused of stealing the backpack. You sit in jail for 2.5 years. Playing in our faces. Soulflow said Hannah took a life and now she's about to do a life sentence. Exactly. Like, I don't get it. If you witness an accident, sure, write down a license plate. If you can, stay on site and tell, yeah, this is what I saw, blah, 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 blah. Nothing gives you the right to say, I'm going to go and follow. And the other thing, too, this goes back to that conversation of policing blackness. I guarantee you, if that had been a white man in a pickup truck that drove off, I bet you she wasn't going after him. And it wasn't even about her, about wanting to police, but she would have understood that, hey, that conversation of fearing for her life. Oh, she wouldn't have gone after no white man in the truck because she would have known, depending on what state we're in, and it's Georgia too, he probably got a gun, I'm going to leave him alone. But the idea of a black man, she knows that if she goes over there, she's going to get support if she starts screaming. She starts, everybody and their mom's going to run and see what's wrong. She knows she would have had some support in her corner. But understand that collectively white women, sorry white women, but y'all don't stand up against white men with anything they do wrong. Y'all get on code with them, which is why we see y'all vote the way y'all vote. The funniest thing, and this is such a weird segue, but I've been reading that Madonna book I told y'all. I'm almost at the end of it. But there's a section in the book where they talk about how like shocked she was with the 2016 election. And they highlight that, yeah, it was 53% of white women that voted for Orange Man. And so they talk about just the shock that was there and how they had no idea. And I'm like, wait till y'all saw what the numbers were for 2020. It went from 53 to 57, 58. But again, that idea of just seeing that collectively, in my opinion, I feel like white women collectively, and this is not all of y'all, but again, y'all be moving on code. When it comes time to move on code, they're going to align with whiteness before they align with gender. And so a lot of times they have no problem standing behind the nonsense that white men do if it means that collectively they, as a race, are going to be fine. That's what it's always been. They vote as households, which is why they have no problem with these cuckoo people being put in office. Because again, they're going to be all right. You know what I mean? Anyway. Maverick Cuss said, at 21, I didn't have that kind of nerve. At 21, I was trying to graduate from college. I was stressed out. It was getting close to the wire for me. You think I was about to be out there chasing somebody? And my behind is so clueless. Like, I remember, speaking of 21, this is how green I used to be. I remember I was on 16th Street. Now, 16th in DC is like, they call it like Embassy Road. My dorm used to be right over there, like 16th and Euclid. It's not a dorm anymore. But there was like this white dude that came up to me. He kind of had like the locks and everything. He's like, hey, man, you know where I can get some trees? Silly me. I'm thinking he really wanted like a tree, right? And so I'm like, oh, well, there's a Home Depot that's like off Rhode Island, but you're going to have to take the red line to get there. And the dude is looking at me like, okay, thanks, man. Thanks, bro. And then it didn't hit me till later that he was asking, like, do I know where I can get weed from? I was like, oh, I wasn't even in that space at the time. I was bright-eyed and green at 21. Like, yeah, there's a Home Depot you can get to. Cuckoo. Then I took offense. I'm like, oh, so you just figured I knew where the supply was. Like, nope. No. But anyway, yeah, I know you can get some trees. I mean, you might be able to buy it at Home Depot. Man. All right. DC Sniper was 2002, right? Yeah, it was like 2002. I want to say 2002, 2003. I want to say 02. Yeah, that's crazy. And that's crazy. They still made the kids go to school with all that. Talking about just jump at the bus stop. Just don't stand in the same place. Like, are you serious? Like, okay. That reminded me of this one time when my grandma was still alive. That's who's in that picture, by the way, on that community tab. One time, this is when my grandma was older. My grandma, God rest her soul, she died really young. She was only like 72, but she had been sickly for like the last 15 years of her life. And I think I talked about this in the podcast too. It's the Summer Smackdown episode, Summer in Savannah. And my brother had gotten in trouble. And by then, my grandma didn't really walk as much. She had a cane and everything, but my grandma was a fighter back in the day. So she was one of them old people that, it was killing her to not be able to move around and stuff like she used to. So she was sitting in the chair. My brother, I don't know what he did, but he got in trouble. So my grandma wanted to whoop him. And again, this is another conversation because some of y'all gonna come in here talking about, whoa, oh my God. Listen, she's from that era. That's what they was doing at the time. But anyway, understand my grandma had I don't know what she had, but she was trying to like hit my brother. And this is how fast she was moving. So clearly it was not gonna phase him at all. My brother was so annoying. Like he was like standing there because he's like 9 or 10. My grandma would try to swing. He like miss me. I was like, Marcus, please just let this old lady just tap you once so she can just sleep good tonight, please. Like, nope. And then my grandma was like, hold him down. I'm like, this is chaotic. Like this family here. Like what? I don't recommend whooping your children with items, just by the way. I'm just saying that as somebody who worked with them for 11 years. There's other ways to discipline your children. But man, my brother I was like, all right, Marcus. And it's like, Marcus, you just had to see it. Like, it's like this older woman who's like 70, hunched over, one leg is almost twisted in, barely had any energy to do it. And he would not let that lady just tap. Nope, he wasn't having that. Pride was strong. He said, nope, not having it. I miss that lady. Anyway, we used to watch South Park together. South Park and Family Guy. That my grandma was lit. Like, that was the coolest thing. Okay, I'll read like 2 more comments and then we're gonna jump to Navy Federal. I think we only have kind of like 2 more heavy ones and then we can loosen up for the rest of this live. Y'all know I don't mind talking the heavy stuff, but I'm trying to not feel like when you guys come to my live, it's a trauma dump. Because I know for a lot of people, some people don't always want to hear all the horrible stuff all the time, right? So that's why I try to balance it out. But man. Okay. Yes, don't stand in the same place. That was crazy. And I just remember when the police finally found us not. Well, I remember the police had raided his house. He had a house in Tacoma because he had killed his ex-wife, right? And he had the house in Tacoma. And I was like, dang, because we had this ongoing joke that all the crazy people were from Washington State. Like the Green River Killer was from Washington State. The DC sniper shooter was from Washington State. Mary Kay Letourneau, the first teacher to get caught messing with a student, was from Washington State. Who else? It's Ted Bundy, I think, did a lot of the nonsense he did in Washington State. They were always out of Washington every time. So it was like, I just remember they were like, ooh, a possible lead in the DC sniper shooter right here in Tacoma. I'm like, oh, it's us again every time. My family used to call and light us up like, hey, yo, people, it's Washington State again. Like, man. Calvin, oh, God, why do y'all remember that? Oh, so Megan said, Calvin, please tell us you have a picture of Marcus. My poor brother, God bless him. He'd get mad when I be telling these stories, but they'd be funny. I told him he can start his own podcast. But it's in the SmackDown episode as well too, when he had to wear my grandma's nightgown because he left his pajamas at the house, or he left his when we stayed in Savannah. Me and my cousin Brandon stayed at my grandma's, and Marcus always stayed at my aunt's. And one time he got to stay at grandma's with us, and he always had to stay at my aunt's because me and Marcus fought every day. Like as kids, we just go at it, right? It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen that episode of The Flanders or The Simpsons when the 2 Flanders boys start fighting. I forgot what they were fighting over. It was like candy or something. But out of nowhere, all of that wholesome Christian, we love the Bible went right out the window. They're like, give it to me, jacket. Like, that was me and my brother. Because the minute we weren't at our parents' house and we had the freedom at grandma's, me and him just used to just go at every day. And so he always stayed at my aunt's house. But he stayed at grandma's that time. And then he left his pajamas or something, right? And so he was going to put on like his shorts or something. My girl said, go in there and get one of my gowns. I was like, dang, me and Brandon lit him up so bad. Oh, because he was like 9. Oh, I know. He was so mad. I'm never gonna tell that story again on this channel, by the way. That's the last time I'm gonna bring it up. But oh, it was so funny. And then he had to sleep in the room with grandma too. You ain't going in there with them because you're gonna cut up. Come in here and lay down with me. Like, oh, that poor, bless him, Lord. It's in the podcast. It's in the podcast, right? This is why he be punching walls now. Like, he's been through it. All right, let's get back to business here. Navy Federal. I need another sip before we get to that. Okay. Yeah, that podcast has some good little gems in it. Don't worry, it's not all me just racking on my brother. Most of the stupid stories of people doing really stupid things it's me. It's the foolish things I did as a child. But right now, these are adult episodes with me working with kids. So now we go from there. Wait, I need another sip. Okay. Navy Federal. This is coming from CNN, which they get on my nerves as well, but at least they have the information I need right now. All right. The largest credit union in the U.S. has the widest disparity in mortgage approval rates between white and black borrowers of any major lender, a trend that reached new heights last year, a CNN analysis found. Navy Federal Credit Union, which lends to military service members and veterans, approved more than 75% of white borrowers who applied for a new conventional home purchase mortgage in 2022. According to the most recent data available from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, but less than 50% of black owners who applied for the same type of loan were approved. While many banks also approved white applicants at higher rates than black borrowers, the nearly 29 percentage point gap in Navy Federal's approval rates was the widest of any of the 50 lenders that originated the most mortgage loans last year. The disparity remains even among white and black applicants who had similar incomes and debt to income ratios. Notably, Navy Federal approved a slightly higher percentage of applications from white borrowers making less than $62,000 a year than it did for black borrowers making $140,000 or more. A deeper statistical analysis performed by CNN found that black applicants to Navy Federal were more than twice as likely to be denied as white applicants, even when more than a dozen different variables, including income, debt to income ratio, property value, down payment percentage, and neighborhood characteristics, were the same. The Virginia-based Navy Federal, which was originally founded in 1933 to serve Navy employees, is now open to all members of the armed forces, Department of Defense personnel, veterans, and their relatives. It has about 13 million members and more than $165 billion in assets. Where do I want to go with this? Okay. Somebody named Bob Atondi, a black business owner in Texas who was denied a mortgage by Navy Federal in 2021 and then approved by another lender in about 2 weeks, said the rejection didn't make any sense. I thought it could have been racial discrimination, he told CNN, but I could never prove it. In total, the credit union rejected 3,700 black applicants for home purchase mortgages last year, potentially blocking them from home ownership just as interest rates spiked. And Navy Federal also approved Latino borrowers at significantly lower rates than white borrowers. In a statement, Navy Federal spokesperson Bill Pearson defended the credit union's lending practices. Navy Federal Credit Union is committed to equal and equitable lending practices and strict adherence to all fair lending laws, Pearson said. Employee training, fair lending, statistical testing, third-party evaluations, and compliance reviews are embedded in our lending practices to ensure fairness across the board. By some measures, Navy Federal has been successful at lending to minority orders. A fourth of its conventional mortgage applicants are black, and about 18% of the conventional loans it originated went to black homeowners or black borrowers, a larger portion than almost any other lender. But because of the large racial disparity in Navy Federal's approval rates, even though more black borrowers are applying for conventional mortgage loans from the credit union, most of them are getting denied. Experts in mortgage lending and advocates for fair housing said that the racial gaps in Navy Federal's approval rates were surprisingly large and raised questions about the institution's lending practices. Lisa Rice, the president and CEO of National Fair Housing Alliance, an advocacy group, said the racial gaps in Navy Federal's lending identified by CNN were some of the largest I've seen. That's quite a stark disparity, Rice said. It's unusual for us to see instances where the lender denies more applicant loans than it approves. Experts said that Navy Federal's racial disparities appear to be an especially extreme example of a larger national problem. The credit union's gap between white and black approval rates has jumped significantly in the recent years. Among all lenders, the racial approval rate gap has also grown. More broadly, the gap in home ownership rates between white and black Americans is larger today than it was before the civil rights era. And it's a key driver of wealth disparities between white and black families. When Babatunde went house hunting in the summer of 2021, he immediately knew that he found his dream house, a 3-bedroom home in the lakeside neighborhood of Dallas suburb. Had an open. Okay, who cares? Get to the point. He was thrilled when his bid for his home was approved and expected that his mortgage application with Navy Federal would be smooth sailing. The relative of the Navy service members, Tunde, had been a Navy Federal customer for years. The credit union had pre-approved him. He said he had successfully paid off several previous Navy Federal vehicle loans, and he had budgeted a down payment of more than 20% of the home's value. But then, just weeks before he was scheduled to close on the purchase, Tunde got bad news. Navy Federal was denying his application. The credit union told him in a former letter that it had concluded his income was not high enough for the account. Not high enough to account for his debts. Tunde said the last-minute denial didn't make sense. According to documents provided to CNN, he was making more than $100,000 a year from his logistics business and had a credit score of over 700. He didn't have any significant debts. And mind you, this was Dallas? Okay. In 2022, according to data, Navy Federal approved 77.1% of white applicants, 55.8% of Latino applicants, and 48.5% of black applicants. The 28.6 percentage point gap between black and white applicants was by far the largest gap among the 50 financial institutions that originated the most conventional home purchase loans this year, which includes Navy Federal. In comparison, Wells Fargo had roughly 19.5 percentage gap between black and white approval rates. U.S. Bank had a 10-point gap, and Bank of America had a 3.5-point gap. The second largest credit union in the country, States Employees Credit Union, had a 5.4 gap. Navy Federal's racial disparities remain even when comparing only applicants with the same incomes and debt-to-income ratios. The credit union approved 59.3 of its applications from black applicants making $140,000 or more, those in the top quarter of applicants by home, and 59.8 of white applicants making less than $62,000, those in the bottom quarter. CNN's analysis found that Navy Federal had statistically significant racial disparities in its mortgage approval rates while holding constant more than a dozen different variables, including the applicant's home, debt to ratio, loan amount, the property value, and the neighborhood's socioeconomic makeup. Even among applicants who were identical among those variables, the analysis found black applicants were more than twice as likely to be denied as white applicants, and Latino applicants were roughly 85% more likely to be denied than white applicants. And by the way, because I know they just tried to gas up Wells Fargo, y'all ain't off the hook either, because again, Wells Fargo, the nation's largest black bank by assets, is stifling black home ownership by rejecting refinance applications sent in by black homeowners while approving almost 3/4 of those sent in by white applicants. A Bloomberg analysis found that Wells Fargo's 47% approval rate gave it the worst record among major lenders when considering refinancing for black homeowners. Homeownership is still one of the main avenues for all Americans to build wealth, which we're about to talk about. Though the national rate of black homeowners stands at 41%, with nearly $200 billion lost in wealth and equity since the Great Recession, African Americans are at risk to have all median wealth extinguished by 2053. And Wells Fargo's gamesmanship with mortgage applications will only make things worse. That is a mouthful. So, again, when we have these conversations of the wealth gap and how when we're talking about racism, it's not just about feelings. It's not just about calling people the N-word or somebody burning a cross in your yard or somebody doesn't like you because you look different. That's feelings. That's individual. But when we start talking power structure and policy, right, understand that this is pretty much an example of just redlining, reforming, and evolving in 2023, right? And so, again, like, understand, there has always been systems in play in regard to black homeownership, because the thing is, like they just said, homeownership is that ticket to wealth, because now you have something you can pass down. You have something that eventually gains equity. You have something that will appreciate over time, right? And so we've constantly seen these attacks on black homeownership. It didn't just start here. You know, we saw it with redlining. It even goes back to when you talk about like blockbusting. I definitely suggest reading chapter 6 out of the book, The Color of Law. I wrote a few notes down because they definitely talk about that. But even when you have the thing about like blockbusting, blockbusting was, long story short, this is when you had white neighborhoods, and this is way back in like 50s, 60s, right? You'd have white neighborhoods, right? And so you'd have these realtors who would go and scare the white relatives into thinking that black people were moving into the neighborhood, because this is a time period where, again, because of redlining, if a black person moved in your neighborhood, automatically your house starts to depreciate in value. The value of the entire neighborhood goes down, because that meant that if one can move in, the rest would move in. Mainly because this is still the era where a lot of cities and towns had a covenant or had an ordinance where Black people weren't allowed to live in certain spaces, right? And so you had that happening. And then at the same time, when you talk about the FHA program and the loan programs, a lot of times the FHA would not loan to Black folks. And so when it was all said and done, the only places where Black folks a lot of times could get some element of a chance of owning a home, it would be in these red line districts, these districts that were considered red, right? So they would do the whole blockbusting thing. And so what they would do is convince white people that Black folks were moving in. So white folks would be like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. And a lot of times these white folks would sell their homes at a lower price than what the home was actually worth, right? And then these real estate tycoons would buy up that property at these really cheap rates and then sell them to Black folks for way more than what the house was valued for. But because there was a limitation on housing for Black folks were willing to do any and everything to get housing. And so a lot of times they paid way more for houses than other folks as far as white folks. And that also included when it came to taxes. Black folks, especially before the 1950s, in a lot of cities were taxed at higher rates when it came to their property than white tenants, right? So just understand there's always been an attack on Blackness when it comes to home ownership, right? And then the other thing, let me tell you how trifling it was, because we talked about this in the book club when we read the book. They would even, and I'm talking about these real estate tycoons and everything, they would hire other Black people to go and push strollers on the sidewalks in white neighborhoods just so white folks would see, oh my God, did you? They get on the phone like, oh my God, Melanie, oh my God, there are 3 of them. It's a woman and she's pushing her stroller. And it's a long stroller, which means there's at least twins. It means at least 2 of them are going to be going to school with our kids. Got to get out of here, right? And so like they were doing everything in their power to convince people to get out of their neighborhoods, because once the neighborhood went red, it could never go back to green. It could never go back to blue, right? And so, yeah, get out of there. So you had a lot of folks getting up out of there. And then they would even have things like they would have, whatchamacallit, they would have people call these white folks' houses and then ask for people with Black names. Hey, is Darnell there? Darnell? You know, anything to get people to say, okay, we got to get out of here. So after enough Darnell calls and enough of seeing Anita pushing her kids in the stroller, white folks were hightailing it out of a bunch of neighborhoods, right? And so that's what blockbusting was. But then you also had things like contract sales, right? And so contract sales emerged because a lot of times Black people still could not qualify for FHA loans. And so with these contract loans or contract sales, what would happen is they would pretty much do like installment payments to whoever the big money guru was that was going to give them the money for the down payment on these properties, right? And so there would be no equity in the purchase, which sucked though. So you would get this house, but you got no equity for at least 10 to 15 years, or actually, 15 to 20 years. And then the other problem is if you miss one payment out of this installment, then you lose everything. You lose the house, they take it back. And so what ended up happening is you had a lot of Black families like move in as far as like a whole bunch of people into one unit so that they could never miss the payment. So you'd have these properties where you'd have 8 or 9 people living in a house in order to pay it off. Just understand the history of America sucks, okay, when it comes to Black folks and home buying and home ownership. So what we're seeing with Navy Federal is not anything new under the sun. And this is why sometimes people think I come on here and this is just a woe is me, it's so hard to be Black. No, this is more of a, in spite of the nonsense we deal with, understand we're always going to get to where we want to be. But before you open your mouth to try to criticize or judge or give your opinion on what you think we should be doing, understand that this is what we're up against. And you are the beneficiary of that. So before you open your mouth to say anything about Black folks, I need you to go back and look at history and mind your business, unless you're going to be a solution to the problem. That's how I see it. All right. And so it's just absolutely crazy. And I think the other thing people have to think about, going back to, again, denying all those people, think about, let's go back to 2019. 2019, interest rates on homes were about 3.94%, right? Imagine people who were trying to get homes then that were denied. And now they want a home now, but interest rates are 7.2%. That's for a 30-year fixed in mortgage or whatever, fixed income or fixed mortgage. You know what I mean? So imagine that. It's like, understand, interest rates have now doubled since 2019, which now means that if a person is able to get a home, they're going to be paying a whole lot more for it than they would have been paying just a few years ago. And so that's the thing to think about in regard to just why all of this matters. Understand that so many people have been pushed out of different programs or denied, and understand that that plays a role into the accumulation of wealth over time. The one thing that I always get so mad, but I'm so happy for them, one of my closest friends was so smart because they bought their house in 2019 and had a great interest rate, had a great price. God bless them. God, I wish I would have did that in 2019, because I'm like, interest rates are like 7% right now. I'm like, man, I never get a house. And so understand that, again, the policy, when we're talking about racism, that's what I'm speaking from. I'm speaking from institutionalizing it, making it systemic. It's not, I could care less whether you like me or not, or which, you can draw all the monkey pictures you want, whatever it is you want to say. Like I said before, monkeys are known to have thin lips, and that ain't black people. It's another demographic that has thin lips that look like slits of paper. So it wouldn't be us. You're drawing the wrong person. But anyway, none of that bothers me. But when it gets down to the conversation of policy, when it gets down to the conversation of banning books, when it gets down to the discrepancies that come into college admissions and attacking different programs, and even what you're seeing in Oklahoma, where they just got rid of all of the diversity inclusion programs and everything else like that. And even with that, we already recognize that diversity inclusion programs are great, but they also still do water down access for black participants, but it still gave a door to black participants. But now watching all that get stripped away, watching all of the anti-woke this and anti-woke that, and it's backed by policy. Every time you turn around, there's something being put into play against us. That's the racism we're talking about. Nobody cares about whether you have 10 black friends and you don't see color and content of the character, and you start quoting whatever the one Martin Luther King speech that right? None of that matters when we're talking policy. None of that matters when we're talking implementation. None of that matters when you're talking a status quo that still allows police to kill us unarmed and nothing happens. None of that matters when you have a Supreme Court that, these are people that are up there for life, and their job has pretty much been to maintain the elements of all white supremacy in this moment, right? When you see what's happening even with voting rights is still on the chopping block. They're just breaking it down piece by piece. And like I said, Clarence Thomas, the main piece of the Voting Rights Act he wants to get next is Section 5. Right now, Section 2A is on the docket, but Section 5, I'm telling y'all, pay attention. I promise you in the next 5 years, Section 5 is going to be the next piece of the Voting Rights Act that they're going to go after. Somebody please bookmark this and we'll come back to it. God forbid. I'm going to pause. Bunch of nonsense. Everybody get on my nerves so much. Get on my nerves. Woo, make it make sense. All right. Let's scroll back up. Y'all still laughing at my brother. Charlene McKinney said, I thought maybe federal was helping black folks. And it's so crazy because they've always had a really good reputation before this came out. Like, a lot of people use them, right? Sucks for them. Natural Empress said they're always in Ohio too. Florida, Washington, Arizona. I'll add Ohio in there. Then those are the states with all the loony folks that always got something crazy going on. Somebody said, what does Marcus do now? Marcus is happily married and has a son that's about, I think he's 3. He should be turning 4 in the spring. Yeah. He did good for himself. We're polar opposites and everything, but he did well for himself. And it's funny because he's bigger than me now, so I can't beat him up anymore. So we don't fight anymore. We do not fight anymore. We have this ongoing tradition that's so annoying. I keep telling him I don't like it, but it's his way of getting me back from all the years. Every time we all get together as a family, like, he's gonna find a way to tackle me as soon as he sees me. And the last time he got me, I wasn't even ready. I was so mad because I told the story before. I'm not gonna tell it again, but I had an uncle that passed, so I went to Savannah, but they lost my luggage, right? And so I had to go to my uncle's funeral, and the same thing I was on the plane with. I had jeans and some sneakers on, and this is in the South, so everybody's looking at you like, who's this disrespectful young man at the funeral not dressed up? But I had just got in the house. I'm annoyed because I've been cussing out the airline over my bag. And then this was the first time I was seeing his wife and his son, because this was 2-3 years ago. And so I'm getting ready to say hi to the little nephew, and next thing you know, I just get tackled from the side. I'm like, what the hell? And all I remember, I just woke up on the floor what is going, what just happened? Marcus, what the hell? So we have this ongoing tradition. And so I'm every time we see each other, he'd be ready. I keep telling him Marcus, I'm not 22 and stuff anymore. Listen, I don't need my back messed up. I'm trying to be functioning when I'm older. All right. I need everything to work. Man. Sorry, these commercials interrupt y'all. Y'all know when I'm reading, I don't even see the screen. What I try to do when we're on here, if I see the ad coming, I try to skip it. Y'all gotta be missing out on revenue, but I'm trying to make sure y'all have a great experience. But if I'm reading, I don't see it. So sorry. But don't worry, it re-uploads. And y'all know I put timestamps on the lives once they upload, so we can always go back to it. Somebody said, when am I going to have Dr. Umar on my show? I think we both have a similar want for Black people collectively, but I think we move very differently. So I don't think he would want to come to this show. we're torn from a different cloth. But I think a lot of the leaders, and I have nothing. Well, the only person I always will have smoke for is Boyce Watkins. But other than that, everybody else, everybody has something they want for their collective, which I respect. But I think sometimes we all kind of move a little differently, and I don't think everybody always is gonna fit in the mold well. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but there's some things I do agree with him on. But let's see. Yes, Terrain Rain Reloaded. This is the systemic part. Everything systemic, all of that stuff documented. That's how racism works. Like people keep thinking, like I said, they keep thinking it's feelings. It's like, no, it's more than that. Like it's policy, because policy is lifelong. And again, like I said, when it comes to race, there's no set precedence. There's never going to be a set of protections for Black people when it comes to race and policy. Every time we get some kind of gain, it always gets chipped away. Every single time they'll find a way to strip away at it or do something to reverse it or flip the script and use the very system that you're fighting against you. And then they claim to be the victims of it. That's how we end up with Edward Bloom and all the nonsense he's been doing, right? ML Foxworth said, the more things change, the more things stay the same. Exactly. Veronica said, in the UK, it's the same thing. Black people are less likely to get loans to start businesses. Then we turn around and say Black people don't want to start businesses. And that's the same thing in the United States as well. A lot of business owners, and they get denied on everything all the time. Like, especially viable businesses. A lot of times, if it's not a barbershop or a hair salon, or sometimes a beauty supply store, or maybe a liquor store, sometimes it's so hard to get, because the bank has to say, well, we have to believe that your business is going to turn a profit. We're going to get our return on our investment. Now, this is not to say that there aren't Black business owners that have had success, but we've seen a lot of people be denied, right? It's a mess. And then you see other people who get a yes because they want to open a darn sprinkle shop. And how much you need? $500,000? Sure. You want to open a sprinkle shop in Manhattan? Right away. Here you go. Like, man, we're going to give it to you at a 2% interest rate. Sure. While this is happening, Congress wants to give us another holiday. Again, symbolism nuggets. I pray. I really do hope that. God, I'm not looking forward to 2024. When I tell y'all, if I don't cover the election, it's for my peace of mind. But as time continues to shift and press forward, I hope that these politicians learn that symbolism nuggets are not going to do the job. People want actual policy and things that have substance and things that actually make people's life better. Nobody asked for a Juneteenth holiday, and I have nothing against Juneteenth because I love the fact that Juneteenth was something that we had amongst us. Now you've made it a federal holiday. Now it's like one of the most disrespected holidays because it was great when other folks didn't know about it. Now they know about it. They got jokes for days, but I bet you they taking their day off, right? And now you be having the Macy's Juneteenth holiday sale. So, that specific holiday that was for us has turned into a commercial exploitation grab for profit, right? And so, it's great to have a day off, but, there could have been other things that that was like number 612 on the list of things that were requested. So, that didn't have to be the priority. That could have been the icing on the cake after y'all fix some other stuff, but it is what it is. Charlene McKinney said, I would love to purchase a house with cash. Speaking of nonsense, let me tell y'all, even when I went and got a new couch, I remember I went to Bob's Discount Furniture, right? Listen, I told you I'm frugal. I have no problem like not spending money on stuff because, like I told y'all, I'm house ready. So we saving the real money for the big stuff. Between trying to save for a house and finishing paying this movie off, I'm not really making a lot of big purchases. So but I went in there. There was a couch I saw that I like. Now, mind you, I'm going in there to just pay stuff up front. I already have the money for what I want, right? And the guy was like, "Oh, well, let's see if you qualify for some program where you do the payments." Now, I didn't ask to do that. Like, I'm good. I got the money. I just pay for it right now. I don't want to do no payments because now it's gonna be interest and everything. I'm gonna pay more for a couch. And the couch was on sale and everything for only like $1,400. I already got it. Let me just go buy it. Do you know I didn't qualify for a couch? And I'm like, how I don't qualify for a couch? Like, I was like, I have no debt. Thank you, Lord. No debt, no credit card debt. My credit score is wonderful. All right. It's like it went down a little bit. I think it's like a 790 right now, but it wasn't in the 800 range, not too long ago, but it went down a little bit. And everything else like that, I make a very nice penny. In addition to having like 4 additional streams of income, like you gonna tell me I don't qualify for a couch? Like, get out of my face. And then like I was just like, and I'm like, I'm just gonna buy the couch. I don't want to do your payment plan. I don't know what system y'all got, but clearly it's some nonsense going on in there. I don't qualify to buy a couch. Get out of my face. Crazy. Man, I was so irritated because I got my old couch, the brown couch I used to have. I got from Bob's Discount back in the day. So I was like, "You gonna tell me I don't qualify for a couch that's $1,400? Here's I'm gonna pay for it right now. I should have just left, but that was a really great price. So I was like, I'm still buying this, but f y'all. All right, I'm gonna start calling out every business I don't have a great experience with. So kudos to Keith Lee and the greatness that he's doing, shouting out all the restaurants that do well. I'm gonna start going to businesses that piss me off and just go over here and let loose, let everybody have it. Like, man. And then I didn't even ask him to check my credit. We don't run your credit. Nobody running my credit because they be dinging it when they check it too much. Leave me alone. Okay. A mess. Anyway, I got the couch. But I was like, swipe. Now deliver it since y'all playing. And I told y'all the story about the delivery. Then we go to one of the lives. That was some nonsense too. The man that came to pick up the brown one gonna come by himself. Talk about we gonna yeah, me and you we should be able to take this on down. What you mean we? Well, I paid for y'all to come move it. Why we gotta move the couch? Lord. Man. It makes me think of that it's like that meme or that clip of the older black man. What you mean? What you mean we? Where y'all get that we from? Oh, we gonna move the couch. Man. Anyway. Okay, Christian Keys. I think this is our last yeah, I think that's the last heavy one. And then we can chop it up. Hold on, I gotta get a little more sip out of that. This tea is hitting today. Yeah. It's like this ginger, turmeric, lemon, honey kind of tea. That thing is hitting today. Okay, I took a few sips out of that. All right, Christian Keys. So he released it. Now, if you know, he's an actor, entertainer. I think he has a production company. He does a few additional things as well. He's been in a few movies and stuff. And so he released a video, I want to say 2 days ago, and he just talks about some of the ills of the entertainment business, specifically in Hollywood. He talks about how, and he doesn't name drop. So I'm not going to jump on here and start naming who I speculate because I don't want that kind of smoke. If it ain't that person, then they come back and try to get me out of here. But he pretty much talks about how there's some power players in the business, billionaires, black billionaires at that. Which kind of really narrows down the suspects here. But he talks about how, there have been some prominent black billionaires who carry a lot of weight in the industry who have pretty much either sexually harassed or sexually, I don't know if you want to say sexually assault, but have done things inappropriate towards him in regard to trying to help his career. One was like he was offered $100K to take off his clothes for this person. There's another person who kept groping and grabbing like 2 or 3 different times and everything else like that. And he was smart because he kept an audio device and has recorded these conversations. And he said that he purposely, intentionally waited for the statute of limitations to pass. The one that I think was in New York where, there's been a lot of cases that have come out. That's how we saw what happened with Diddy and everything. He specifically wanted that statute of limitation to pass because he actually wants to take his evidence to the actual police. And, they do whatever they need to do with that spot, right? And so it has opened a wide range of conversation because everybody's speculating like, oh, my God, who could it be? But I think, for me, I certainly believe it's way more than just 2 people. I think the entertainment industry has a lot of the crazy things going on in it. Like, I am sure that it's more than just them 2 folks. But the part that makes it creepy is he said the person has a very distinctive voice. There's only so many black billionaires we know that have distinctive voices, right? If we even know what a lot of them sound like. So like I said, I'm not name dropping nothing in here because I don't have time to falsely accuse somebody of something or I have the wrong person and then I get caught up. Absolutely not. But it's going to be interesting to see how this really, really unfolds, right? But I do think there has to be a shift in just how all of entertainment works. For me, I'm all about clean house so that the entire culture can change because that whole conversation of like the casting couch is a real thing, right? It's also in music, right? And so the other part that gets me, and this even kind of goes back to even what you could say was going on with Diddy and stuff, is the beef that I have sometimes is it seems like so many people know about these things happening. Now, I will say in regard to Diddy, there was one person who wrote a whole book about what he felt Diddy was doing. So I'll give him a pass. But my other thing is, whether it be Diddy, whether it be what happened with R. Kelly, whether it's Les Moonves, whether it's Harvey Weinstein, all of these people that have big names and everything, there's always tons of people in the room, tons of people who are enablers, tons of people who knew about what was happening and never say anything. And then finally, when somebody says their 2 cents, then everybody wants to come out the woodwork of what they saw and what they remember. And I'm like, so all y'all just allowed this to happen, right? So all y'all, everybody, the money was talking. Nobody wanted to mess up the bag, huh? We just all be quiet, right? And so that's my only beef that I have, because again, understand, think that if somebody like a Harvey Weinstein was held accountable from jump, think of how different Hollywood would have been. If somebody like Les Moonves was held accountable for his actions years ago and didn't have the kind of power and the pull that he had, just imagine how different things would be in entertainment. Hell, we probably wouldn't have been on YouTube because Janet Jackson wouldn't have been blacklisted, and the Super Bowl would have had a different, well, I guess I take that back. We still have been on YouTube. Remember, the founders of YouTube were so pressed to find a clip of the Super Bowl that inspired them to create YouTube. But hey, maybe her career would have had a different trajectory, even though she still was able to bounce back. But just understand that like so much may have been different. And so I think when you continue to allow folks to use their wealth to push their weight around at the expense of people, I think that is, I just think that sucks. And I think that's why so many people leave entertainment or leave Hollywood. They just see the ills of how that business operates. Because again, like I said, that casting couch is a real thing in both Hollywood and television and music. It's a real thing. And for that person that he's accusing to be bold enough, especially when he tells the story about the guy grabbing him like 3 different times, for that person to be bold enough to do that 3 times after he told him, hell nah, and then he still does it and thinks it's okay, that's an issue. And one of the things he talks about is he was pitching a show to a different billionaire, right? And then it was supposed to be a meeting at the person's house. The person come out in the robe and got champagne and strawberries. And he was like, what? Wait a minute, I didn't know it was gonna be this. So he's like, I'm good. And the guy's like, are you sure? And yeah, I'm sure. Are you sure? And he says like that, are you sure meant like, no, you're not, you'll never work in this town again. Are you sure? Kind of make up your mind type of thing. So this will be a really messy one, because when those charges come out and names are dropped, because he said it's gonna be a sad day. And Lord, I'm praying to name some of the people I think it is, but dang, that's gonna suck. So we'll see what happens. But man, and like, Jesus. And I remember like some people were talking about Terry Crews, but I think Terry Crews actually did go to the police as well. But with Terry Crews, I think his was thrown out. It goes to a bigger conversation. I think this is one of the reasons why sometimes people don't say anything. You do go to the authorities about certain things and nothing gets done. I forgot what the percentage is of convictions when it comes to people that are charged in sexual assault, but it's definitely under like 10%. So actually, let's look that up and fact check. I don't want to give y'all no false facts. Let's see. Let's see. What's the conviction rate on, or maybe it's prison, not conviction, on, I just want to be sure. For every 1,000 sexual assaults, 384 are reported to police, 57 result in an arrest, and 7 result in a felony conviction, and 6 result in incarceration. I'm going to read that one more time because I was starting a little bit. All right. For every 1,000 sexual assaults in this country, 384 are reported to police, 57 result in an arrest, 11 are referred for prosecution, 7 result in a felony conviction, and 6 result in incarceration. 6 out of 1,000. There definitely has to be a shift in the structure around here, because that's ridiculous, right? And this is why people don't go and speak out when they want to, because a lot of times they just don't get the help that they should be getting. Okay, let's see. Yeah, now y'all can do all the name dropping y'all want, go for it. But yeah, I would like my platform to stay here. So sometimes I'm like, why don't you call them out? Yeah, because YouTube be getting rid of folks. And then when I'm out of here, this channel goes, I ain't about to rebuild this thing. This was a decade of work. All right. Oh, yeah. And then they talked about the woman. He talked about the woman actress too, who kept grabbing him on set. So he done named about 3 different people, right? My Lord. All right, so Jules T said, heck, they'll give credit to a ham sandwich. Oh, man, Rico Owen, have you seen Leaving the World Behind on Netflix? I did. I'm gonna talk about this movie, but I got some other shows I want to talk about at the end. I'll do it after I cover the heavy stories. Leaving the World Behind was all right. The ending threw me off. I will not spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I'm gonna tell you what. What's his name that won the Oscar for Green Book? How do you say his name? Mahershala Ali. There's a scene where he pissed me off so much. It was a situation of life and death. I'm not gonna spoil it for y'all, but he was ready to make a stupid decision. And I'm like, you got a whole child waiting for you back at the house, and you're about to do this stupid decision for some folks that you've known for 2 days. Be for real. Ooh, that scene pissed me off so much. I was cussing up a storm watching that. I don't know. It just abruptly ended. It was finally picking up, and then it just ended to me. I don't know if that's supposed to set up for like a sequel or what, but I guess. Plus, I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of over the influx of apocalyptic movies. Like, I feel like people are obsessed with the world ending. They are obsessed with it. I'm like, y'all be wanting that crap to happen. I don't mind those movies, but every movie got to be that. Every time I turn around, we got one of them going. My Lord, we need some happy stuff to watch. Anyway. Tyler Hackner said, there's certainly hints he gave saying it without saying it. Yeah, he said a lot. Like, in my head, I got the two in my head that I'm thinking it is, and I'm hoping it ain't, but dang, that's going to suck. Especially when he talks about the good deeds that one of them started to do. I was like, oh, ooh, that sounds just like somebody. Ouch. But when that comes out, we'll talk about it. Exactly, course correction. I think all the speculation is so harmful to the innocent. Maybe he has an NDA and can't say anything, but maybe he should have dropped it after it went to the police or just said it. I'll say, as far as speculation, I personally try not to like put anybody on blast up here until stuff has been confirmed, or at least I have no problem reading what charges have been put out there, even if the person hasn't been convicted yet, because charges are different. It's not saying the person did it; it's just saying this is what they're charged with. But as far as like speculating and just starting to put stuff out there, those are the kind of accusations you don't want to follow you, especially because think about some people who again are falsely accused and that follows them for life. Like, that does suck. So yeah. I'm not putting no names out there, but we will see as things unfold, right? Y'all putting them jokes up in here. Exactly, Jalil Mason. Look what happened to Janet's career. Amen for her being able to bounce back, but 04 to 09 was a dark time to be a Janet fan. Man, we was going through it watching the downfall. Good thing she bounced back. That tour, she sold out every day, so good for her. Let's see. Queen, exact. What's with black folks in film risking everything for? Oh, that's gonna spoil what I was talking about. Yeah, but yes, I agree. That's the scene that pissed me off. Oh, I was hot in that scene. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen the movie, but oh, I could have screamed. I want to jump. Like, man, what are you doing? Oh man. Okay. Let's shift here. Okay, this is not gonna be a super long story. I just want to say, because some of y'all are jacked up, right? So I saw the clip, Meek Mill, he was at, it was kind of like a public event because there's been some probation reform bill in Pennsylvania that is, it's been put up. I don't know if it's been signed or not, but, so I think it has been signed. So he was at kind of like the press conference and everything, and he's just talking about the work that had been going into it, and he was really happy, and then he started crying talking about it. And for me, it was weird because everybody started laughing at the man crying. I'm like, this is why we be having problems we be having. Y'all are going to have to get into a space to let men be able to express themselves, right? Because I get it. We're taught to be tough. We're taught to not have emotion. I get it. But like, my thing is, at least this is somebody who is actually standing behind something and actually doing something, right? We spend all the time criticizing a lot of our entertainers and stuff because a lot of times they don't really stand for a whole lot. They're agents of chaos a lot of times. So you have somebody because with the prison reform bill, what it was going to do was pretty much people who are on, not prison reform, probation reform, people that are in probation, long story short, when there are small minor offenses, the reform bill is going to make it less likely for people to be reincarcerated. Because just think about, sometimes things happen. Sometimes somebody's supposed to check in with the probation officer, but maybe they got in a car accident that day and they ended up in the hospital and there's no way to get in contact with them for 2 or 3 weeks, and now there's a warrant for their arrest, like that kind of stuff, right? So that's what that bill is supposed to combat. So my thing is, for somebody who's trying to better society, or at least make things less cumbersome in regard to having to deal with the judicial system and the prison industrial complex. I don't see that as something to try to make fun of somebody for crying for. Plus, sometimes stuff just be hitting you up. Like I used to, if you knew me before I worked with kids, I was somebody who had no emotion. I said this in the podcast. I went from like age 14 until I was like 21 without ever shedding a tear, ever. I couldn't figure out how to make a tear come out of his face. So you'd be down bad and couldn't figure out how to process nothing. And I didn't shed a tear until it was all in the same week because my grandma died and I graduated from Howard all around the same time. Like that was the first time I finally like remember like actually like letting a tear come out. But like, man, but it was interesting because it did remind me of this one time. Because me and my brother, we used to stay, like when we still went to my parents' church, we used to always crack up in church. We always had jokes, man. And so one time they used to do like the praise and testimony service where people start testifying about stuff. And so this guy, he was testifying about like the birds and the trees and how pretty they were. And my brother was on the drums at the time and I was in the back ushering. So we're like way across the church, just making eye contact, just cracking up. For some reason, I randomly started testifying about something. I don't know what I was testifying about, but out of nowhere, something just hit me because I don't know what it was, but I just started boo-hooing. I was like, what is going on? And I'm somebody who cannot talk and cry at the same time. I can't get anything out. And okay, you know how like on Michael Jackson's Speed Demon, that little doo, doo, like that's how my voice sounds when I'm trying to talk while I'm crying. I cannot get anything out. And so I'm up there, and mind you, I don't even know what I was talking about. I was up there saying something, and the worst part is, so after I sat there and embarrassed myself up in the church because I was like, whatever happened, right? My mom is over there elbowing her friend. They laughing. My dad, like, I'm like, how y'all got jokes? And then we're in the car. Because my mom was like, yeah, sister so-and-so was like, what's wrong with your son? She was like, girl, I don't know. You know, he went out last night. He probably hung over, which is true. I did go out the night before. But, man, I was like, look, I don't know where that came from. So sometimes stuff just be hitting you out of nowhere. Even when it was my last, or when I told the kids I was leaving, like, I had to do that crap like 5 times that day. And I was good. Like, I told my boss, because, again, like I said, I ran a community center for 11 years. We got really close. All those kids are like my kids, even my staff, my team, everybody I love. And so, you know, if you follow the podcast, this would have been Ava. Me and Ava talked about it first. She was good. She understood. We were good. It was time to grow and branch out. And then I had to tell my boss. Now, this is not the same boss lady from the podcast. Understand, eventually, boss lady transitions out and there's a new boss that comes in. The new boss was wonderful. Loved working with her. The best boss I've ever had. And she knew what I was calling her about because she was already crying when I FaceTimed her. I was like, dang, she knows. So I had to tell her. So, you know, do the whole speech about that. Get to the center. I tell my teenagers, you know, I'm transitioning out. This is going to be my last year with y'all and everything because this is like April of 2022, right? And I tried to give like a 4-week notice, not a 2, because I was going to stay around and try to help the center, you know, hopefully help them get a new director before I leave and everything. So I had to give the whole speech with the kids, right? I made it through the speech. They were already sad and stuff. And then one of my favorite teens walked into the room. If you follow the podcast, his name is Chase. He's one of the kids in the podcast. These are podcast names, not the real names. But Chase is the kid that I said he lives like a Power Ranger. He just be flipping and jumping off stuff. At this point, Chase is no longer in 1st grade. He's now a senior in high school and getting ready to go off to college. And he walked in and I had to tell the same. He was like, what's going on? I'm like, damn. So I had to say the same thing again. But while I was saying it, I'm looking at Chase, who's like 6'5" and 17, 18. And I automatically see little 7-year-old Chase. And I started talking. And I was like, damn. And I was like trying to hide my face because they have never seen me cry. Like even when my dad died, they never saw that. They never seen me cry before. So all the teens are like, they didn't know what to do. It was the saddest day. And then I had to do it again with the little kids. And they got the boo. I didn't cry in front of them. No, I had it together by then because Chase took up all my good tears. But man, I mean, them little kids, they boo-hooed. I had to take like 4 of them to Cold Stone. It'd be in the podcast in like 20 more episodes. But man, I was so mad because I had already practiced this in the car. This was supposed to be a smooth, and I had all the right things I said, right? It was a smooth thing. I assured them I'm gonna still be around. You know, I'm still gonna volunteer. I'm just not gonna be here every day. And y'all need somebody with some new energy and everything. You know, I'm getting a little older. And you guys at this point, because these teenagers have been with me since they were like 1st grade. They're all out the door anyway. Like, oh, y'all about to leave for school anyway. So this would be a good time for me to transition out. They bring in some new people, and this new cohort of little kids get somebody that is able to get what I gave them. Man, as soon as Chase walked in, and I was about 10 words in, and I was like, because, I'm not going to be here. Like, I was like, damn. Anyway, let's move on. I ain't even going on my soapbox, but Lord. So yeah, y'all leave Meek Mill alone. At least he's standing behind something that's admirable. That's going to make a lot of people's lives better in regard to people that are trying to build their lives back after being incarcerated. All right. Oh, this is an interesting one I did want to talk about. And this is with sickle cell, which I think is a great advancement. Of course, with medicine, there's always still going to need to be more time for like studies and stuff. But the first is called CRISPR. The first CRISPR medicine is now approved in the U.S. The one-time gene editing fix is meant to halt debilitating pain crises. You know what I'm trying to say. For sickle cell patients who formerly could only be cured with a risky stem cell transplant. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration today approved the first of its kind medical treatment that uses CRISPR gene editing, called Casgevy. The therapy is intended to treat patients with sickle cell disease, an inherited blood disorder that affects more than 100,000 people in the United States. The UK first approved the groundbreaking treatment in November 2016. The therapy is made by Vertex Pharmaceuticals of Boston and CRISPR Therapeutics of Switzerland. The treatment aims to eliminate episodes of debilitating pain that are the hallmark of sickle cell disease. It involves editing patients' cells outside of the body to override the genetic defect that causes the disease. Adults and children 12 and older with frequent pain attacks will be eligible to receive it. Therapy is designed to be given just once, with benefits potentially lasting years. No, I'm not doing no paywall. We're not paying for nothing today. Let me see. This is a major milestone, says Vince Boham, acting deputy director of the National Human Genome Research Institute at the National Institutes of Health. This could really change the lives of individuals and reduce the burden of pain episodes. The FDA will decide by March 30th about whether the therapy should be approved for beta, these scientific terms, thalassemia. Beta thalassemia, if I said it wrong, y'all know what I'm trying to say, a related blood disorder. The UK's November approval included both sickle cell and beta thalassemia. All right. Sickle cell disease is a hereditary condition in which a person's red blood cells are hard and crescent-shaped instead of flexible and round. These sickle cells clump together and block blood flow, causing bouts of extreme pain. Over time, the disease can cause organ damage. Sickle cells also die off early, leaving a shortage of healthy red blood cells. A low red blood cell count means the body can't get enough oxygen, a condition called anemia. This causes fatigue, shortness of breath, and dizziness. People with the disease have a life expectancy that's more than 2 decades shorter than the rest of the U.S. population. All right. So, again, like I said, they're still definitely doing the research and everything, but I do think that's a groundbreaking find, especially because we understand, like, with sickle cell, it's something that definitely affects a lot of Black people collectively. Like, I've never heard of sickle cell until I saw T-Boz's story, right? Because, she has it. And there's different forms of sickle cell as well, right? And I've had a few classmates in undergrad that have it. And there's one who still definitely has bouts all the time where probably he's in the hospital like every 2 or 3 months because he keeps having, a crisis with sickle cell. So, we'll see how it goes. I don't know. Every treatment might not always be the best one, but at least they're making strides and that there's still an effort. I remember years ago, we did in the news about an advancement in sickle cell treatment. I don't think it's the same thing, but I think that is a great announcement, at least, because there's no cure for sickle cell, right? And understand, when you have sickle cell, it affects everything else. Even when you have to do things like get surgery, all of that plays a role. Because again, like I said, the cells that you have are your red blood cells around. The blood cells of like a sickle cell person are like crescent shaped and everything. And so again, sometimes people's blood doesn't clot properly after an injury and everything else like that. And so when it comes to surgery, when it comes to certain medications, there's all kind of things that play a role. And then when you're talking about what can trigger a crisis, anything as simple as just a drastic change in temperature can play a role for some people, right? If it gets too cold, it can play a role. If it's too hot, it can play a role. If somebody's too stressed out or their anxiety is really, really high, it can cause a crisis. There's all these different things that happen. So, people that have sickle cell have to deal with a lot. It definitely affects people, especially even for people that are kids. A lot of times they can't even get in the pool, depending on, what version of sickle cell they have. So, I think that's a great discovery. I'm gonna read one more article here. Some more nonsense real quick. This is so stupid, but I'm gonna read it. All right, here we go. Books removed from Texas Plantation for being too focused on slavery. Again, books removed from Texas Plantation for being too focused on slavery. Emails obtained by Texas Monthly suggest the Texas Historical Commission was concerned about retaliation from lawmakers for carrying the books. Around 24 books were removed from 2 Plantation gift shop offerings after the Texas Historical Commission received complaints that the titles were too focused on racism and white supremacy, according to a report from Texas Monthly. Michelle Haas, who the magazine described as an amateur historian, visited the Varner Hog Plantation an hour south of Houston in September 2022 and emailed complaints to David Grayville, a commission board member, that the book centered too heavily on slavery at the sugar plantation. What you think they was doing at the sugar plantation? Be for real. And not enough on the White Hog family. Give me the strength to read this article. All right. I attached a list of books available with the publisher's description of each. Haas wrote in an April email noting books available at the nearby Levi Jordan Historical Plantation. You may assess for yourselves how relevant they are to the history of Brazoria County. As of November, the state agency no longer sells 23 books Haas deemed as inappropriate, according to Texas Monthly. The titles include Remembering the Days of Sorrow, Invisible Man, Stamped from the Beginning, and Roots. The commission told the magazine that the books were removed to reduce inventory as the agency moves to a point-of-sale software system. However, emails obtained through an open records request by the magazine show Grayville taking the complaints to the board in February before the agency decided to change the system in fear of potential retaliation from state lawmakers. I believe we need to take immediate steps to learn the extent of this problem and articulate a remedy, including the source of how this material was approved, reads one of Grayville's emails from February. There's a good chance it will end up in an open forum on the ledge, adding he was concerned the inevitable press that would be generated due to the emotional nature of this national argument if we do not address it quickly. Haas, a Corpus Christi native, is the author of 200 Years of Fraud, in which she disputes what she considers historical inaccuracies in 12 Years a Slave. An 1853 memoir by Solomon Northup. In her book, Haas argues that U.S. history is overly harsh on the South and doesn't acknowledge that slavery was a socially acceptable and economically worthwhile practice worldwide at our time that the 13 colonies arose. So again, going back to our conversation about racism and things that are systemic, here we go again. How do you go to a plantation? A plantation. What is the purpose of one, right? Plantation. It's the owners that go and have all these people that work the fields for free. Hard labor, free labor of Black Americans, right? Enslaved people. And you're going to sit here and say, oh, well, the gift shop, the books are they're focused too much on slavery. Like, see, the problem is a lot of these people want to romanticize that era. They love that conversation of the antebellum period. You know, they want to go. And of course, they want to they want to have the weddings on the plantations. They want to romanticize all of that, but they don't want to face and deal with the realities of what was over there, right? And so they love to sit here and water down everything that takes place. And the idea of sitting there, writing down a list of 23 books, and then all it took was one person. One person did that. That's the same thing with Moms for Liberty. It started with a handful of like 11 folks, and then it went from there. Same thing with the book banning people. Like, it's literally a handful of people. But because whiteness is so strong in this country, it's so easy for a lot of them to get exactly what it is they want, when they want, and how they want it by any expense, right? So now an actual plantation, which one, I'm like, what? Y'all got a gift shop and everything. Like, it's a good time. Ooh, you want a souvenir? Like, now y'all abandon the books, right? You want to challenge the historical inaccuracies and everything else like that. Again, the nonsense. And that's because a lot of times they center themselves as individuals when we talk about structural flaws within the United States. They see themselves as the United States. That's why even when we talk about police brutality, one of the reasons why a lot of white Americans go so hard for the police is because they see the police as an extension of themselves, which would go right back to the Hannah Payne conversation, right? And so, again, when it comes to the United States, any criticism of the United States, especially coming from somebody who looks like me and got all this mouth, for white folks, you're attacking them because America is what they believe in. One of the craziest things I saw, somebody had some post that was like, you know, white folks fight for what they believe in, and Black folks, their problem is all they do is pray for what they believe in. And I'm like, first of all, if we want to talk about it, personally, and this is my opinion, you ain't got to agree. I don't believe that white people collectively believe in anything. The only time they collectively move as a unit is when it's time to be racist. Other than that, they're never united on anything and never have been. Never have been. Okay? Look at these mass shootings. What a lot of times they go and just spray random folks all the time. Go and shoot up a movie theater. Go and shoot up a school. This has nothing to do with protecting white. They go and just shoot anybody, right? So again, that idea of like a collective thought, no, it's never been a thing until it's time to be racist. And so I thought that was such a stupid comment to put out there because for some reason people love to kind of break their necks to always tear down blackness and black people in regard to everything that we're doing as a result of what's wrong with America. It's because black people don't do this. Y'all don't be doing this. And I'm like, a lot of times you are attacking the end result. You never address the origin. And like I said before, for as long as we've been living here, we have been in a constant state of fight or flight. Every time you turn around, you got to fight against something. And I don't think we realize that we're living in a spectrum of all of these different offenses that we're constantly fighting and battling. You're battling racism in this aspect, housing discrimination, police brutality, lapses within education. Then you got the racial violence. Then you got the prison industrial complex. Then you got the judicial system. Then you got the conversation when it comes to food desert. Then you got the conversations with medical abuse. Like there's just issue after issue after issue after issue. And so, yeah, we're scattered everywhere trying to address all of it because we have no allies in any of this, right? And so it's just interesting to see how this works. And then you get stupid things like this, little petty things. Well, let's go to technically what would be classified as almost a museum and challenge the books that they have in the museum. That would be like me going to the Holocaust Museum and then say, well, I don't think y'all need to talk about all this because this we need to just talk about how nice Europe was in the 40s before it got blown up. Like, that's how stupid you sound. So again, and it just goes to show one person had that much power, that much pull. So when I tell you that there's nobody fighting for us, that's what I mean. It took one person and they let's get these books out of here. We don't want no smoke. Scared of one person. Oh, y'all some scary people. Okay. Anyway, some of y'all just left me some stuff. I need to put my thank yous in here. Who was that? Thank you, Lil I3D. That's what Tion has a combination of that scientific term you were having problems pronouncing. I ain't gonna try to spell it either. And arthritis with her sickle cell. Child, that slavery article was a mess. Okay, that makes sense. And poor T-Boz, and then she had the brain tumor too. Like, I'm glad she's still here. I remember when I was a kid, I used to be sad because I remember her talking about her saying she wasn't supposed to live till 40, or she thought she was. And I remember would have been like the FAMU era. I was counting the math, like, she's 28, 29. I'm like, dang, man, we only got like 10 more years left with her. I used to really think she was going to pass at 40 when I was little. So I'm glad she's still here. But man, that's absolutely crazy. But you go to a plantation where there were people who were enslaved and had to work against their will in order to make a whole bunch of white folks wealthy. And then she got the nerve to say there needs to be more focus on that family. Well, what do you want me to focus on? The atrocities they did to the people on the plantation? Because we got it here, but you got a problem with it. See, a lot of folks want to have their history only make them look good at all times. Like, my thing about blackness, which I love, is that our history has all kind of elements of it. We have the good, the bad, the ugly. We got everything. There's a lot of black folks who like to run away from the conversations of slavery. I see it as a space of resilience. Now, I get tired of the conversation of us always having to be resilient. But for my thing is, as a Black American, if you are here right now, you are coming from the lineage of the people who made it through that nonsense, right? And this is not any disrespect or ill will towards anybody who didn't make it out through slavery, because God bless everybody who had to deal with that kind of nonsense. But again, that means you come from a lineage of those who were able to put up with the nonsense by any means necessary, even when it got down to the wire, when it got really bad, right? And so that, for me, is nothing to be ashamed about. Coming from a lineage where you were enslaved is nothing to be ashamed about, in my opinion. Because it just goes to show that, listen, they have tried everything in their power to take you down, from slavery to sharecropping to convict leasing, because we talked about convict leasing before. The average lifespan of somebody in convict leasing, once they're in that system, is barely like 7 years, right? And so the convict leasing, the Jim Crow, the nadir period, all the nonsense that we got to deal with, and we still here putting up this nonsense and having people shook in real time. People are terrified of us, not because they think we're violent, but they know that, okay, if we've done all this to them and they can still thrive, even when they don't have anything, even when there's a wealth gap, and they're still be breaking all kind of records. Every time they're given an opportunity and actually have a fair shot, they overperform and outperform everybody. That's a scary thing, which is why people fight so hard to keep us in the trenches, right? That's what that's about. So, oh girl is stupid. And again, I'm not a fan of plantations being these wonderful, cool spots to go and check out and hang out. And let's take our wedding photos here. F all that. But no, she's talking about, yeah, hey, we need to focus on the family. It's too harsh. And the book is too harsh on slavery at the time. The idea of trying to say, well, that's just the way things were. It doesn't mean it was right. Okay, there's a whole bunch of things that are law, but it doesn't mean that those laws are just. And it doesn't mean that just is always fair, or it doesn't mean that fair is always just. So everybody's stupid. So that's all I got. Everybody just stupid. Everybody. Not y'all, but everybody's stupid. Make it make sense. Now, I will say with that sickle cell treatment, I read something where the treatment for that is like $2 million. Now, that's the jacked up part, right? That's when you get into that big problem with the flaws that exist in healthcare. You can't even afford the treatment, because what insurance company is going to be like, yeah, we're going to cover that? Like, man, terrible. Yeah, they about to get paid on that. Oh, Lorenz Tate has it as well. Okay. Tamara Jai said, "I'm skeptical of it, but we'll see." Same thing, you know. I'm always excited when I see advancements, but I'm always like, okay, we'll see how it unfolds. But it would be great if that could be something wonderful. You know what I mean? Let's see. Good, but I just know so many people in our collective have it. Like it disproportionately affects us than everybody in comparison to other groups. Anyone going to talk about TD Jake's involvement with? Oh, I didn't. With Puffy? Somebody gonna have to school me on that. I didn't know about all that. Okay, we'll come back. Exactly, Queen. Books removed from Plantation for being too focused on slavery. Veronica said, "America is not a real place." The way I've just built my own bubble for my own peace of mind, like somebody make it make sense, Lord. And they'll be saying the unpaid intern soon enough. And it was a internship program where they learn skills. You know, they learn how to plow the field, and yeah, we even help them extend their families. A bunch of nonsense, Lord. An amateur. Thank you, Naomi C. And an amateur historian at that was able to do this. Not even a professional. I hate to hear it. I'm gonna start being. I'm gonna find something I'm passionate about and do the most and take that crap to court. I'm gonna find something I don't like, and I'm gonna start me a whole group. It's gonna the Justice Warriors, whatever. We're gonna make up some name. Oh, I gotta be like the other groups. They always gotta use some patriotic name. You gotta throw freedom or liberty or something in there. I'm gonna throw some the Justice Warriors of liberty and prosperity. We're gonna start a group. All right. I'm about to find everything I got a problem with. And I'm gonna just keep taking it to the docket every 5 minutes. Quentin Hoskins said, Whoopi Goldberg said millennials stay mad at her. She'll be all right. Avocado Queen said, how can we progress as a people, especially in terms of generational wealth, when many black men are out here? Oh, here we go. Many black men are out here in the open now about their love of white women. All right. 80% of us are still married to black women. But no, there is, you got the ones in there. My thing, date who you want to date, do what you do. Cool. But at the same time, when it comes to a lot of these conversations, I start looking at folks really like, I know y'all be running behind Cornel West, but I be looking at him funny too. Okay. Because I just remember that one time, I remember that panel with him and Sister Soldier and all them. And that day she dragged him so bad because he was like, well, sometimes that's all we can get. And she said, wait a minute, I don't work with all I can get. I was like, here we go. There we go. Because somebody over here settling for some nonsense. That's all I'm saying. Y'all. Oh, Jonathan Majors. See, Jonathan, we'll see how that one go. That's a wild one because it's like that is one where the pendulum just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. All of that is chaos to me. Straight up chaos. And he done told that woman, what did he tell her? She need to be like Coretta Scott King and Michelle Obama. I said, but you, okay, because even when I listen to the audio, he's like, I'm trying to do this for my community, and but I was like, but you gonna do it with her. Okay. Cool. All right, like I said, do y'all do what y'all do. Enjoy. Have a great time. Wonderful. Enjoy. But it's a lot going on out here. There's a lot going on. TD's, yeah, y'all gonna have to fill me in on the TD Jakes thing. I don't know about that. Our ancestors are survivors and we're their descendants. I appreciate that. Yes. Going back to the race thing, my thing is this: date who you want. But I think if you're gonna date outside the race, go for it. Because most of the time, cool, do you. But I think the problem becomes when you date outside of the race, but then you spend all of your time S-wording on your own collective as a justification as to why you date outside the race. I think that's the problem a lot of people have. Or a lot of people often will go and purposely try to like stir the pot and like, because I'll say this, especially for those of us men in a collective, not me, that are dating white women all the time. Sometimes you'll see them break their necks to always go and be like, this is why I don't be dating black women. Understand, like, Date who you're gonna date, but nobody is thinking about you and whoever you're with. Enjoy, have a great time. If you're happy in that relationship, go be happy in it. You shouldn't have to go and parade it in our faces and then try to paint it as something revolutionary when it's not. But be happy. I want everybody to be happy, but understand, date who you want. But it should not be at a space where it gives you a pass and whoever you're dating a pass to shit on black folks. That's when I look at folks real sideways. But there's that. Yeah, do who you want. You do what y'all want to do. It is what it is. But like, the problem is so many people break their necks to try to bring folks around like a prized possession. Like, yeah, this is why they will date every. Okay, like I don't know if y'all keep seeing this clip. And we've done a video on these folks with these blaccents before. But there's this Asian girl who she claiming she grew up in Georgia for 10 years and she done mixed about 8 regions together because she got some of it sound like Cobb County, Georgia, but then some of it sound like Baltimore. Then a piece of it sound like she from the Bay Area, and then another piece sound like she from Texas. I was like, here y'all go. But it was so crazy because the guy that posted it was like gassing up, like, oh man, there's something so sexy about her accent. I said, sometimes y'all love everything about your women, but then to be black. But okay, like I guess, but whatever. Anyway, date who you want, be happy. Yeah, Jonathan Majors. He said, "You supposed to be like Coretta Scott King. Don't you understand that? I'm doing something for my community." I was like, "Yeah, but with her, which means you can still do that, but that's not the burden on her to do." Like what? Okay, and she's showing you how that system works. You know, what do you say? Channel your inner black woman. Hollywood. Yeah, like I said, date who you want, but you don't got to shit on your own race just because you stepped out. Do what you want to do. Like I said, everybody has the right to be happy. If you fall in love, and so be it. Enjoy. But that doesn't mean you come and get on our nerves about it every 5 minutes and try to paint it like we're missing out. Like, leave me alone. Okay. Oh, I think that's all the big. Yeah. Okay, that's all the main stories. Squid Game, the challenge. So I watched that the other day. First of all, one, I think that is a very it's very entertaining, but I think it's such a horrible show. Okay, it's one thing when they had the movie Squid Game, you know, that was entertaining because it was a movie, it was fictional entertainment, it got me through the pandemic. Now it's the real thing, and if you haven't seen it, it's a show like Squid Game the Challenge. It's a show that it mirrors the movie, but it's real life, and you have like 600 something people that are competing for $4 something million, right? And the object of the game is be the last person there. Like people constantly keep getting eliminated. The last person standing is the person that wins, right? And so I sat and watched this. I was like, this is actually a really terrible idea because they took all these people that are in like financial hardship or all these people that have a story and things that they're trying to do, and then you lock them all in there and see what it is that they're going to do in order to win this money because they got to win all these different challenges. I was like, this is off the chain here, like off the chain. And the funniest thing, I won't spoil it for people that are watching. You know, I don't know how long they were in this place, but it was crazy because by like day 2, because mind you, a whole bunch of people were already eliminated on day 1. All they played was red light, green light, and they were still getting eliminated. But by day 2, like the people had made all these bonds and they would be crying when somebody left. I was like, y'all are that close already after 2 days? They already got y'all sleeping in bunk beds in here. But the craziest part was every time the people get eliminated, they have this big dome that's see-through and they drop the money because each person is worth $10,000. So once a person loses, $10,000 goes into that big old dome. And so every time somebody was getting sent home, that thing just kept filling up. But man, there's a part later into the season where they had to turn on each other. The things people do for money. I said, this shows exactly what's wrong with humanity, but that is a crazy show. And then the part that got me is the winner was like, well, they got their money now, but they were saying like, because I think they won back in February of 2023, that they didn't have their money yet. I was like, wait, you went through all of what you went through and you went home empty-handed? The way I would have climbed up and took like, at least, give me about 2 or 3 stacks out of the dome. I understand that y'all don't want to give me the big payout till the show comes out, but let me just get like 2 or 3 stacks to hold on to until afterward. Like, you know, y'all playing in my face. I done been through all this. You gonna give me my money now, like right now. And the person that won, I gave them a strong side eye because they were so trifling. Because it's really a game about like trust and stuff too. And there was this one guy on there. This is why you can't be everybody's friend. He was a very upstanding guy, very respectable, trying to be everybody's friends, trying to be the leader and everything. And she didn't see it for him. And she went behind his back and was trying to get him up out of there just for on the flip side where there was a scene. And I'm not spoiling it so nobody knows what I'm talking about. But there's a scene where it called for pretty much that same winter to get saved. And guess who came to save the person? Because they had no idea that she had turned on them behind the scenes. I said, see, can't be friends with everybody. You got to let that discernment kick in sometimes. That's why I don't be leading the crowd like that, because folks be trifling. I gave her a strong side eye. And then she won. Even when it got down to the end, I didn't like none of the last 3 people that was in it. I was like, I got to root for one of y'all. All right. Trifling show. But I ain't gonna lie, there is one scene. There's this black girl. I'm trying to not spoil it, but there's a scene where they got to jump across the little squares and not drop. She had me rolling in that, because I'm not gonna spoil it, but I died. I said, you know what? I get it, but I would have been so mad if I was anybody else in that group. Hilarious. All right. All right, revisionists are strange people. You want history as a historian, but don't want the history as a historian. That's my thing. Like, history is not always going to be great. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be parts that, like, I have no problem calling this country out. And even like when people who are not from the U.S. start talking about how terrible the country is, I don't even fight them on it, because I'm like, I get it. I understand. I get it. I told y'all when I was still at Howard, for my Spanish class, we had to go to the State Department one time when they had us on like this kind of like video conference call with these kids from Colombia. Them Colombian students let us have it. It wasn't even supposed to be that. It was supposed to be like some kind of cultural exchange. And they were like, you Americans. And really, it wasn't really towards us. It was really towards like America. It wasn't really towards us, but I was like, damn. And I mean, they had a point with everything that they said. And that person was like, the stuff that you guys have done to our continent, because they started talking about how the United States had gone and there were all these different coups and what we did in Argentina and how we took out their lead. Like, I mean, they were just dragging us. And I'm like, I can't even fight y'all because it's true. Like, you right. I mean, you need to pass it to the orchestrators of the chaos. I'm on the receiving end as well. But yes, you right. Like, man. So yeah, when folks want to sit here and be painted as just the perfect everything, like, nonsense. Oh, y'all are not letting this Coretta Scott King, Michelle Obama big go. I told y'all when I met her, she was actually real cool. I was my aunt invited me because my aunt had tickets to the White House Christmas dinner in like 2013. That was actually a really cool week because that was 2013. I had launched my web series that I want to say that Friday. I think either that Thursday or that Friday. I went to the White House Christmas dinner the next day, and then the day after that, I had tickets to the Miss Carter show. That was that Beyonce show when she flew over our heads in the arena. That was a dope week. But no, I remember they had 2 parties at the White House. So it was the party upstairs with the real important people, the real celebrities. That was where the Jay-Z's and all them was at, and all the big people. And then I was at the peasant party, right? These are the people that are lawyers and, lobbyists and stuff and everything. I was my aunt's plus one. And so, the Obamas was upstairs cranking and cutting the rug upstairs. And then they finally come downstairs to our peasant party, but the food was real good. And then they had a part where like they made all the people like get behind this velvet rope, and then the Obamas would come down and kind of talk to everybody. And mind you, everybody was fighting to get to Barack. Like, and Barack is cool, but I always like Michelle. And so I knew if I would have stood at these velvet ropes with these people, I wasn't gonna meet either of them because it was too many people trying to claw and get there. And I'm like, for all y'all to be so wealthy and rich, y'all being some real starstruck folks right now. So I just went all the way to the end because I knew they were gonna have to go to the exit door to go back upstairs. And so Michelle walked past all the people and came straight to me and extended that hand. I was like, oh, okay, because about 10 black people down there. It was only so many of us, and 7 of them was serving the food. So like, man, so she came, shook my hand, talked to me for a quick minute. How are you, baby? I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Happy. Nice. She smelled nice. I said, okay, that was a great day, right? I ended up chopping it up with all the people that were serving the food because everybody in the party was real snooty. I ain't like half the people in there, but the folks that were, because they had some good food too. But the folks that was like serving the food, those were the cool folks. We was up there laughing and joking and everything. But yeah. Anyway. Exactly. Somebody said Squid Games, the reality show, was wild. It really was. I was just like, this is horrible. Calvin, question: have you seen the show on NBC called Found? It's about missing people. I have not. I made a note to at some point catch up with it. There's like a bunch of stuff I need to watch. Somebody just told me to watch Black Cake on Hulu or something like that. I got a bunch of stuff I need to watch, but I'm trying to get this Mariah thing done because I've been telling y'all since March it was coming and it still ain't here yet, and y'all gonna fight me, so I need to get it finished. Yeah. What else did I watch? There was something else I watched. What did I write in my phone? Oh, maybe not. Never mind. Oh, okay. Never mind. I thought I watched something. Okay. I see y'all talking about Anita Baker. I don't know what's going on. Look, when I saw Anita Baker, the show was all right. It was all right for me. We left a little early because the show was really long. She was up there for like 2.5 hours. Because that was the one. It was Babyface and Anita. Like I said, she was all right. They started fighting up in the balcony at the top, so that kind of made me look sideways. But she was okay at my show. What else? Apparently, her and Cheryl Lynn are going back and forth on Twitter right now or something. I don't know. I haven't been on social media since we started this, but man. Somebody said, you're not trying to spoil it. You're spoiling it all over. I didn't spoil that. I didn't say who did what and what. I didn't name no names. I didn't give no scenarios. I kept it real general. You wouldn't know what I was talking about. If you start watching, you wouldn't be able to figure out what I was talking about until you see it. So you'll be all right. Oh, you know, I was pissed too. I didn't know Mariah Carey was just here and I didn't. Well, I probably wasn't going to go anyway, but she was here Saturday. She was doing like the Christmas concert and I didn't know about it. I was like, dang. And if I would have known, I might have probably got a ticket. I've seen her once or twice, but they weren't like full concerts. They were like, one-off kind of performances when I would go be a seat filler and she was one of the performers. But it was all in Baltimore. And it was like, by the time I saw the tickets, and they had a floor seat that was $54. And before I could, think about it and really say, do I want to spend money? Because like we said, we house ready. We ain't trying to keep spending money. Somebody had already snatched up that ticket. I was like, dang. And as much as I love Baltimore, because the only seats that were left were like the upper balcony, I don't do upper balcony in Baltimore because I'll be fighting too much. So no. But man, so I didn't go. What's her name is here? Madonna is here for like the next 2 days. But I respect her as an entertainer. She's never really been my kind of entertainer, and the tickets are too high. Plus, I got the book club on Monday, so I'm probably not going to see her. But if anybody goes, y'all tell me how it was. But anyway, yeah. They said Squid Game shows the harsh realities of human nature. We ain't need to see how ghetto we truly are. That show. I mean, it's vicious because it really shows that money talks. It shows that money talks, and I get it. 4.5 or $4.6 million is a lot of money. It can change your life. Well, taxes kick in, you probably get about $3 million afterwards. But man, yeah, that's a lot. I mean, to watch them people turn on each other so quickly. I said, "Ooh, all right." Iron Will said, I watched a few episodes when my loctician was doing my hair, and those people were turning on each other, talking about, you could trust me. That exactly. And I'm like, did y'all forget that the premise of this show is to be the last person standing? No matter how much trust y'all got, eventually somebody got to turn on each other. Like, Lord. Yeah, apparently, as far as course correction said, Anita and Cheryl Lynn have beef. Apparently, because y'all been letting Anita Baker have it tonight on social media, and then apparently Cheryl Lynn posted something like, well, I don't know what she posted. She posted a clip of her performing, and whatever she said must have, people feel like it alluded to Anita, and then Anita must have responded. So the two of them going back and forth. I'm like, y'all got the aunties up here fighting. They're not even the aunties. Y'all got the great aunties up here fighting. Like, okay. Yeah, I was at the peasant party. Because Beyonce was upstairs for real, like, because she was in DC. Like I said, she was doing it was a Miss Carter tour. She was doing 3 nights in a row at I think it was the Verizon Center at the time, the big arena. Like, she was doing 3 back-to-back shows, right? And so she was in town because the stylist guy Ty Hunter was at my party. I was like, why he ain't upstairs with Beyonce? He the one doing the clothes and the stuff. He should be upstairs with her. He down here with me. But which I randomly ran into him when I was in New York, which is kind of cool. But like, Yeah, they were upstairs. So I was like, are they gonna come down? And I mean, it was cranking upstairs. I was trying to find every way to get up there because I want to know who was up in there. That's the party should have went to. But because the food was so good at the peasant party, it was fine. Am I seeing The Color Purple? My godmom wants to see that, so I got her a ticket for the Christmas show. What are my oh god, what are my thoughts on the 2024 election and Trump possibly getting back in the office again? For the sake of my peace, I have it blocked out right now. I'm not there. Talk to me again in like 6 months. Oh god. The thing is, like, this is the best we got as far as candidates. 330 something million people that live here, and these are the options we have. Okay. All right. Jessica J said DMV got all the concerts. Yeah, look, everybody come to DC. I love it. That's why I like being in the city, because you can DC, especially for like R&B shows. DC, I love that DC is right by Baltimore, because if they're not in DC, they're always at Baltimore. Like they'll do a trade-off, or sometimes they'll go to both cities. DC, Baltimore, Atlanta, Houston, Chicago, New York, of course, Philly. Like, I feel like those are the cities where most of the times an R&B artist is always going to go to. Oakland as well. They're always going to go to those cities. So yeah, those are the best cities to be in if you're a big R&B fan, because everybody's going to come. Somebody said, I was so tired of the grandstanding and sob stories on that show. Dude, stop. Is that Squid Game? The thing with Squid Game, they will give you the sob story just for the person to get kicked off in the next 5 minutes. I'm like, why do you make us get to know them and they about to lose? Like, Lord, that's kind of like American Idol back in the day, where they would go to the person's hometown and they would show them working at the bookstore. And, this is my something. I ride my bike to work, and then they go and audition and can't sing and get sent home. I'm like, why did y'all even go through all that? Lord. Oh, have I discussed Brandy's holiday album? I like it. Let me tell you, that was a nice project. I love the I don't know the name of y'all know I don't know no lyrics. I stay messing up some lyrics. I was getting dragged on Twitter for what I told y'all on the last live about that Aaliyah song. What's it called? Party for Two, Christmas for Two. I love that song. Let me see. I gotta make sure I said it right. Brandy, what's it called? That's a nice album. Nice Christmas album. It's called Christmas Party for Two. And I like the Somebody's Waiting. Somebody's Waiting. I like that too. It's a nice album. It's very nice. Very nice, Brandy. I ain't gonna lie. I like that more than B7. I didn't care for B7 that much. Everybody fought me when I said it. But yeah, I really like this Christmas album. Y'all know I love Christmas music. Like, I love a nice R&B. By the way, there's a great playlist that I just added. Well, I didn't make it, but I added it to my library. It is called, it's just called R&B Christmas. Wait. Oh, it was made for me. Oh, that's why it's so good. It picked all the stuff they know I'm gonna listen to. Let's see. Well, maybe I'll share it with y'all. Here, I'll share it. I'll put it in the description on YouTube. But no, it's a nice one. It got some nice songs in here. Yeah, it got Sounds of Blackness, Soul Holiday, Boys to Men, Let It Snow. They got Temptations, Silent Night, of course, Luther Vandross, Every Year, Every Christmas. I'm scrolling through some of these. The OJs, I Can't Hardly Wait Till Christmas, TLC Sleigh Ride, Whitney Houston, Joy to the World, October London, The Greatest Gift, and of course, Donny Hathaway, This Christmas, BB and CeCe, which is one of my favorites, Jingle Bells, Ashanti, Christmas Time Again, PJ Morton, All I Want for Christmas Is You. Lettucey got some good ones. Give Love on Christmas Day, Baby Rose, To You. This one is a nice little playlist. Darlene McCoy, Joy to the World, Faith Evans, Soul for Christmas. It's a whole bunch. It's like 100+ songs here. Now, my only beef is it don't got Christmas in Jamaica on there. Y'all know that's my favorite Christmas song. Tony Braxton and Shaggy, the Christmas in Jamaica remix. We have this conversation every holiday season, but it ain't on this playlist, but I'm going to add it on. But it's lit. That's my song. All right. I saw that Jonathan Cooper. Samara Joy is coming to Bethesda Jazz and Lounge Supper Club. And what's going to be the book for the book club? The book club tomorrow, we're finishing The Short and Tragic Life of Robert Peace. I have not made a new book club selection for February, but I'm going to find something happier, because we've definitely had about 3 heavy books. Phyllis Hyman, which I love, it was more about music, but it was still kind of a heavy read. And I forgot what else we read. We did What the Fireflies Knew. That one ended up being kind of heavy. I want something. I want something happy. Give me something happy. I want to laugh, right? Lord, because the book club is lit though. We be having some great discussions. Somebody said, I remember when Obama slid into my jobs group chat one day. I was like, oh, you finally came to talk to the peasants. Lord, my kids got to meet him. We got to be on TV last year, which is kind of cool. It'd be in a podcast. But yeah, they got to meet him. It was really, really cool. And it was crazy because I thought it was going to be like Secret Service going hard where you got to stay 10 feet back. No, once they secured the perimeter and were like, this area y'all stay in, them kids was like trying to climb on his back. I was like, down. TV cameras are down. Like, the kids had a ball. So he was real cool. Now, I don't agree with some of that policy he'd be having, but in that moment, as far as what it meant for those kids, that was like one of those super proud moments I had. Like, dang, you are one dope director because your kids have met the president. But yeah, that was good for them. Some of the kids were crying. They were so excited. It was really cool. All right. Yeah, I'll add that playlist in my in the description. Rainy J said Janet's still touring. The tour just extended over in Asia. She's doing 3 shows in Hawaii. 3 shows in Hawaii, and then she's in Japan and I think Korea or somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, she's still getting it in. She just did a show in Houston like the top of this month. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to cover? I think I covered the majority of everything I wanted to cover. Don't ask me about Cardi B and Offset. I don't care, but good luck to them. Don't ask me about the dude doing. Oh, well, this was stupid. The dude that did the OnlyFans at the Senate place. I don't know what world he was in, sir. First of all, understand, like, those buildings have so much surveillance. Why would you be fool enough to try and like record and tape like sexual content at a federal building, let alone the Senate chambers? I'm sure there's all kind of cameras. Now you got to be at the Christmas dinner table explaining why you don't have a job anymore. Like, what? And what do you say? Right? Do they like a mess? Crazy. Ain't no way. There's too much surveillance up in there. Why would you do anything crazy like that? Like, okay. I don't think he got a job anymore. He worked under Ben Cardin. So that's crazy. Let's see. Is there anything else? Okay, those are all the main things. Perfect. We'll chop it up for a few minutes before I call it a night. Let's see. What up, Preston? He said, wow, never caught a live. You're a huge inspiration and starting my podcast. Hey, Preston, put the name of your podcast in the chat. And we'll gas it up. Just don't be on there talking nothing crazy. But yeah, we'll celebrate it. So Omega, the 50 years of hip hop celebration in Atlanta this past Friday was insane. Oh, I wish I would have known about it. I know they had something on TV, but I didn't see that. I didn't even know about it. Man. Somebody said, why does being an adult turn into trash when we're grown? I don't know, because when I was a kid, the way I was so pressed to be an adult, I couldn't wait, because I was like, man, when I'm grown, I'm going to do whatever I want. Every time, adulting is not fun right now. It was fun when I was like 21 and didn't have any responsibilities. And, all I had to do was pass my classes. But now, Lord, every time you turn around, you got to pay for it. Everything is expensive. You just step outside and got to pay for something. Like, man, every time. Yeah, SWV was here last. I'm pissed I didn't know about it. They were at MGM. And by the time I saw that they were there, again, this conversation of I'm house ready, stop spending money. I was like, dang. And they only had seats in the very, very back. And the reason I didn't want to go there is because when we saw Tony, we were kind of in the back as well. And I didn't like how the sound was. And I was like, man, that's probably not going to sound good back there. But I ended up in New York anyway, so it didn't matter. So yeah. I use Spotify right now. I used to have everything, but then again, trying to be house ready, I had to cut it back because I had Tidal, Apple Music, Spotify, I had everything, all the streaming services, Paramount Plus, Peacock, everything. And I'm like, you just spend and spend. Let's cut some of this stuff down. Let's just use what we actually utilize. Pay for what we actually use. So I had to start cutting some of that down. Oh, somebody said Nicki Minaj. Okay, yeah, good luck to her as well. Um, I listen to some of the songs on the album. It's okay. I've never really followed Nicki like that, so I wouldn't know. Listening to this album, I wouldn't have another album to reference in regard to what I think. But the songs I heard were okay. The opening song I thought sounded kind of cool with like the production on it. That Everybody song is kind of fun to dance to. It sounds like. And what song did I remember? Some song called Cowboy Girl wasn't too bad. She's not really my type of artist, but she got a song or two that's catchy. Lil I 3D, that's the best thing I've heard. When you're in bed, you still spending money as an adult. That'd be the worst feeling. Have you ever had your bank account I set it up where my bank will text me once I get below a certain threshold. And it's like sometimes you haven't even done anything. You just be asleep and there's something that got pulled out. It's like ding, notification, your account is. I'm like, what? And then I go and look and it's some bill what bill is this? Something you done signed up for that renewed every 6 months. I'm like, right now. Like, oh my God, my recording studio, like some of the plugins I have like a recurring subscription I got to pay for, like using Pro Tools sometimes and all that stuff. You got to pay for some of that. And sometimes that crap be trying to renew at the worst times. Like right now, come on, Lord. The only thing I don't put on auto pay is rent, because rent be like super, super high. I can't sleep good knowing that much just gets taken out. I want to be in control of sending that one out. Like, and I'm gonna be petty because I'm always gonna pay rent on the very last day. Like, I'm not in a rush to give y'all my money. You're gonna get it on the 5th. Right. Like, man, that'd be the worst. Tyler said, I hate concerts in the back, can't even see. I don't mind being in the back of a show if it's more so just for like singing. Like when we were at the Anita Baker, we were on the floor, but we were in the back of the floor. So like being on the floor doesn't matter after the first 12 rows. After that, you really can't see anything unless the stage is super, super high or they have a stage that comes out into the crowd. So you really can't see that well. But she sounded nice. I could look on the screen, but everybody was standing up the whole show and stuff. So it's like you stand up too. But if the person in front of you is 6'5" or 6'6", you're trying to squeeze in. Yeah, so, but no, yeah, depending on who it is. Or some venues, the smaller venues, I don't mind being in the back because there's not really a bad seat. Like if you go to like DC's Constitution Hall, there's not a bad seat there at all. Like no matter where you sit, even if you're in the very back, you have a good seat. So like those kind of things. But when it's like, that's why I don't like stadium shows, because it's too big, too far. I prefer an arena, even for the big names. But now an arena show, if it's a visual artist, I need to be closer to the front. At least let me be in the 100 section and the front half of the 100 section. Like if I'm not going to be on the floor. Somebody said Pink Friday is considered a classic. Like I remember all the singles. Nicki I never followed like that. But I remember the singles. I like Moment for Life from Pink Friday. That was a fun song. How do we access the book club? It is so on the community tab on the channel, like where I made the announcement. You'll see like on my community tab, there's a picture of me and my grandma, Christmas '95. And in that same thing, there's a link to the Zoom. And all you got to do is click the Zoom at 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. And we'll be there chopping it up. And it's going to be probably a bit longer because we're doing the last 5 chapters. Normally, for this book, we were doing 3 chapters at a time. But it didn't make sense to keep dragging this book into the new year. So it was like, we need to go ahead and wrap up. When we did Phyllis, I think we were doing 4 chapters at a time. So it kind of it all varies. Maverick said, saw my next energy bill. It ain't bad, but being petty. I haven't let it go how much they made when it was nearly 100 degrees in August. Yeah, look at the way I be turning that thermostat off, even in the house. Just turn it off. I used to fuss at my dad when I was young because he always had the house cold. But now I understand. Like, yeah, we spending too much. All right. Somebody said T-Mobile pays their Netflix. My godmom was lucky I love her because once Netflix did that password sharing thing and started charging, I was like, dang. But she uses mine, so I paid the extra bit so she could still have Netflix because I was like, dang, man. Netflix tripping. Oh, YouTube. I don't know about YouTube Music. I gotta kind of check them out. Okay. I do gotta check them out. They said they do mixes. All right. Yes, bills are not fun. Especially when you got like projects and stuff you're funding at the same time. I'll be like, man, sometimes when I'm like in some of these meetings and we're just going over logistics of like what we're still paying off, and I'm like, how much is that gonna be? Okay. All right. Okay. Looks like we're eating beans and noodles tomorrow. But man, yeah, so all right, we'll do a few more minutes and then I'm going to call it a night. Curls under construction said, I always get here at the end. Hey Calvin, what's up? Yeah, you at the end, but we'll hang for a few more minutes just for you. Lil I3D said, yeah, my dad had the thermostat at 68 in the winter. If you cold, grab a blanket as an adult. I understand. Man, when I was a teenager, like I said, we moved a lot because my parents were military, but the last house we moved in or lived in before I moved out as an adult, it was a split level house where when you walk in, you either go up or go down. And my room was downstairs. And so the vents were on the ceiling. But you know, when you turn on heat rises. So when the heat would come on downstairs, it was so cold. And I was like, Dad, man, turn the heat up. He's like, no, if you cold, you need to come sleep upstairs. But I'm like, but my room is downstairs. Well, you better sleep in one of the rooms upstairs. But you know, you're a teenager. You want your privacy. You want to be on the phone till 2 a.m. and making noise. You don't want to be across from them because then they'd be like, turn that TV off and go to bed. So I used to just be down there freezing, be under like 3 blankets. But then on the flip side, when it was summer, and this is back then, like a lot of folks in Washington State didn't have air conditioning or central air back then because it wasn't that hot. Now people are getting it. But our house did not have central air. And them summers used to get hot. Then everybody want to be downstairs because it was cool on my floor. Like, all y'all going back upstairs. Going upstairs. You want to be cool, stay upstairs. But man, I would be a teenager again. What a time. When's the next podcast dropping? I don't have a specific date, but it's in the next few weeks. It's coming out around the same time as the Mariah, so it happened. Beans and noodles, that was a joke. Thank you, Calvin, for lighting up those bad guys and keeping things funny with your wonderful life memories. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. How old am I? I am 35. Can y'all believe it? Like, time be flying. Folks be thinking I'm like, it's funny because when I did that Whoopi video, some of them folks thought I was like 24 on there. I'm like, no, y'all don't realize I'm like 4.5 years from 40. Like, time is kicking in. Yeah, I don't do space heaters. No, we got one in the office, but no, I don't do space heaters. Nah, not in my house. And if you do a space heater, do not plug it into a whatchamacallit. What do they say? Don't plug it into a surge. Wait, never mind. Let me see. I don't want to tell y'all the wrong thing and then your house burned down. Y'all come over here looking for me. Hold on, let me see. Let me make sure I said this right. Oh, I was right. Plug space heaters directly into a wall. Do not use an extension cord or a power strip. Exactly. That's what starts the fires. Man. Let me see. Have you been stamped from the beginning documentary? Wait, I don't know what that means. Have you been stamped from the beginning documentary? I'm not sure what that is. I got to check that out. I don't know what that means. You have to clarify some. Minecraft or Roblox? Well, listen, when I work with the kids, it's interesting how things work. When I was with the kids, when I first, from like 2011 to about 2014, they were obsessed with Roblox and Pop Tropica, which I heard Pop Tropica is no longer a thing anymore. They were obsessed with those two. And then it shifted to Minecraft. Like, they used to go hard for Minecraft. And because it's those games where they're in a computer lab and they're all playing against each other. They can sit on that all day, right? Like, man, so we used to have to cut down. All right, that's enough computer time. We're going outside. Everybody outside. Let's go right now. Go do some dodgeball. Like, man. Oh, with the podcast, I left y'all on the cliffhanger. Where's the podcast? I'm trying to think where did the podcast leave off at? Let me look at my notes. I don't remember where we left off on the podcast. That's how long it's been since I listened to it. What episode is that? Let me see. Comedically hard-headed. Oh, that was when I had the jacked up haircut. Oh, Pee Wee had joined. I still don't remember how it ended. I gotta go back and listen. Oh, okay. LOL, it's based off one of the books you listed that were banned. Oh, I need to go back and look into that, huh? All right. I didn't even know they had a documentary for that. Okay. Can we talk about? Oh Lord, this Aaliyah song. So I've told this story so many freaking times, but it's so funny because folks be thinking I made it up. But and I swear I just said this on the last live. Y'all know I'm bad with lyrics. I be having everybody's songs wrong all the time because I'm one of those people that you hear a song and you're so pressed to sing along that you don't ever really learn the lyrics right away, right? But you got the melody down, so you just start singing and piecing together what you think makes sense. And so somebody had a post on Twitter like, okay, what are some lyrics that you got wrong back then, but now you know are correct as an adult, or how did you change them? And so I talked about again Aaliyah's "Are You That Somebody." Now I've told the story a million times, and I've tweeted that so many times, but for some reason it caught on the other day and got like 500,000 impressions or whatever. So I was getting flamed, but I kept thinking like on Aaliyah's "Are You That Somebody," I thought she was saying, well, I'm going to read what the real lyrics are because I still don't even know what they really are. Hold on. Hold on. Aaliyah, "Are You That Somebody" lyrics. She says, and this is in the hook. Where's it at? Boy, I gotta watch my back because I gotta watch my back because I'm not just anybody. I, for the longest, thought she was saying, boy, I gotta watch my back because I ride the city bus, right? And it makes sense because if you're on the bus, right, folks be crazy on there, so you do have to kind of watch your back. And like I said on Twitter, like folks be acting like Aaliyah wasn't raised in Detroit, so she would know about city living, right? But for me, all I heard was, boy, I gotta watch my back because I ride the city bus. Like that's what I heard. So Twitter was letting me have it. They're like, you made that up. I'm like, I ain't make that up. I swear, I'm telling you, that's what I thought it was for the longest. That's how it just sounded. Oh, I gotta watch my back. So I said it bus. Like that's what I heard. And I was like 9 when the song came out. So it made sense at the time. Man, they was letting me have it. It's like, okay, whatever. Between that and me starting to fight where I was saying, this is just me, speaking of Mariah, I always like "Don't Forget About Us" more than "We Belong Together." That was the song I liked. Now, I know that "We Belong Together" is the comeback hit and was #1 for 14 weeks and helped the Emancipation sell millions of copies. But "Don't Forget About Us" to me was the catchier song. To me, it had the catchier melody. It actually had a bridge because "We Belong Together" doesn't have a bridge. It just goes straight to a climax. But "Don't Forget About Us" had a bridge that had a great climax, some great ad-libs. That was my song. So I posted that song was better. Oh, the wars that started. And I don't know how that ended up on the Shade Room. It wasn't my initial post, but apparently the Shade Room had a post. Ooh, which song was better? I said, yeah, y'all just be lurking. Okay. But yeah. Whatever. Yeah, y'all know I be messing up lyrics. And it's so bad because sometimes when you actually like sit and just listen, I'm like, how did you even get that? Even with Janet on "When I Think of You," and I don't know how, because sometimes I just be making up sounds. When I think of you, I just like, ooh, baby, when I get your phone with you crazy. And then I was like, I just randomly stopped one day and just was listening. I was like, she said, "Anytime my world is crazy." What have you been singing for like 20 years? Like, how did you even get that? What? Lord. I said, when I get your foot, you're crazy. I thought she was just kind of doing like some Janet gibberish Jackson type stuff, but Lord, yeah, I stay messing up some lyrics. Like, man, I remember when I went to the Little Brother concert. That's like one of my favorite rap groups. I couldn't even rap along to nothing. I just had to bop my head because I mess up everybody's lyrics so bad, so bad. This is why I'm the king of karaoke though, because once I can see the lyrics on the screen, it's on the popping. That girl Khalees, I feel artists should always include the lyrics when they drop an LP. I agree. I used to always look at the lyrics. I mean, eventually, like the songs I was pressed about, I would finally sit back and like sit and read the lyrics because that was a thing to remember. Like, especially if you grew up in like 80s, 90s, early 2000s, that used to be a thing. It was almost like a competition to see if you could learn somebody's lyrics first, and then you come to school the next day and all y'all be trying to rap or sing it. Yeah, that was the thing at one point. But no, I am bad with lyrics. I be messing up everybody's song all the time. And it's crazy because sometimes there's songs that you've been singing for like 20 years and you still don't even be having the words down, but got the melody down. Be sounding good too. And then you'll kind of stop and like, what did I just say? And then I'll go and Google, like, oh, that's what they said. Okay. Don't ask me to try to sing Tony Braxton, maybe. I don't know what she's saying. I just be up there mumbling. Wait. Okay, I'm lost. Somebody said, wait. So Soulbanger said, I thought she said, I got to wash my body because I'm not just anybody. Wait. Oh, that's what you thought it was. I thought you were saying that. I thought she was saying, I got to watch my. What is the real? Let me see, because sometimes these lyrics be wrong. We're going to get to the bottom of this. I want to make sure I got this right. Aaliyah, what's the lyrics to your song, ma'am? Okay, because sometimes the things be having two different sets of lyrics. Okay, yeah, boy, I got to watch my back because I'm not just anybody. Okay, that's two different places, so that's what it must be. All right. Iron Will said, you do have to watch your back on the city bus. Exactly. Okay, have you ever been on the 70 in DC? Like, that 70 that go down Georgia Avenue? Like, you get on that bus. Okay. Especially when them teenagers get on there doing the most. It be them teenagers. I'm like, dang. Ooh, I do not like being on the subway between the hours of 2 and 4 o'clock when them kids get out of school because they about to show they behind. Even though I have worked with kids, I'm great with the kids I worked with. I still know the teenagers are teenagers and they're going to do stuff to irritate you. Like, man. Ooh, the X2 as well. Like, the buses, man. I remember when the old Walter Reed was still on Georgia Avenue, and I still had my parents' military benefits back then. So I used to go to Walter Reed for like a physical and stuff when I was in college. I used to have to get on that 70 bus. And I saw all kind of stuff. Montrez Jones said, you had 2 viral moments this week. I really did. Look, I need y'all to do that when my next album come out. Let that go viral, please. All right. Oh, I saw that stuff about MC Light. I got to kind of follow and see what's up with that too as well. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm bad. But you know what? I'll tell you what. The one genre where I be having all the lyrics right, it'd be gospel. But that was because I was a kid and had to be in the choir and stuff. So you had to like learn the lyrics correctly, right? Or even when I had to be the choir director and had to teach it, that's when I had words right. I know somebody said that I still don't know what Janet is saying on If. I don't either. Well, I'm getting better, but I used to be like 4 3 2 1 5 4 3 2. I didn't know what she was saying. It took a minute. I still be at the concert singing. I'd be singing whatever version. Like, it would be so bad if I ever went, because sometimes entertainers let you come on stage and sing. I would have to really just start doing some runs because I'm gonna mess up somebody's song in front of them and they're gonna sit me back down. I'm like, you go on and sit back down. Oh, I take it back. Now, Joe, I got all his lyrics right because he's one of my favorite singers. Joe, I got all his stuff down. Joe and Tevin Campbell, I can sing all their stuff just because those are the two people I wish I had a voice like. So I love singing all their stuff. So those are lyrics I got right. But everybody else, it'd be a mess. Wait, now Iron Will is saying that's what I thought. I gotta watch my body because it would. I don't know. That's why my version made sense. Just watch your back on the city bus and you'll be good. That's what we gonna keep it. That's what it's gonna be. Not too much on Joe. She said Joe is boring. Joe works for me. My favorite Joe songs, My Love, Love Scene, All the Things Your Man Won't Do, We Need to Move, I Won't Let Him Hurt You, Baby, Mary Jane, Stutter, the remix. He has some good ones. I'm skipping a bunch of stuff. But those are my main favorites right now. But Joe has some gems. Somebody said if I was Janice off for you tour in Hawaii and she made me sing the whole lyric, so let's wait a while, she'd have to pay me. Now she'd be getting on my nerves with that, with the concerts when she be pointing that mic. Like you only get to point the mic so many times. You can't look. The show I was at in May, she started singing again, which is honestly I've never really cared for the song like that. It's cool for what it is, but I'm good on it. You can sing something else. But she had a part where she just pointed the mic and then had the crowd singing like the whole verse. I said, Janet, now, I don't even like this song enough for this much crowd participation. Like, you better quit playing. Like, man. But then she came in to do the big note. She said, I'm going to do this one note for y'all so y'all know my mic is on. And y'all going to leave me alone. Yeah, I don't want to do too much crowd participation. I'll do a little bit. You know, we can have the part where they've been jamming, and then the band does the break, and it's just the drums, and now they want to hear the audience say, that's fine. But we're not about to sing all the first verse and all the second verse and a part of the bridge. Then you come in for the climax and the song over. We ain't doing that. Oh, I do. Speaking of Joe, that's the last ticket I said I was gonna buy. I ain't buy nothing else, but I did get Joe and Tamia tickets. I'm going to that. That's gonna be some singing. I can't wait. That's gonna be a great show. Can't wait. Let's see. Yeah, we just chopping it up at this point. Yeah, Erin said, I love Maybe by Tony. I don't know what she's saying, but I love the melody. I'm like, saying Tony. The spot. I got that part. That love a lot. Forget. I don't know what she's saying, but I'd be in there between the sheets. Go on, Tony. All right. No, I don't know no SZA lyrics. I know I messed that up. Wait, why is my black card being temporarily revoked? Because of the lyrics? What I do? If I don't know the lyrics, I don't know the lyrics. Wait a minute. Lord. Oh, okay. Shout out my music. Somebody said the rap part in Jaded View, Jaded Blue is giving me Prince rapping. He. It's so funny because anytime I rap on my stuff, I be trying to talk a little bit deeper because I don't like my speaking voice. But yeah, that was a fun one to record. That was one of the easier ones because I didn't have to really sing on it. All I do was rap. So yeah. Yeah, that MC Light one's gonna suck because one of my favorite MC Light songs was Ice Cream Dream. I used to love that song because I love the melody. That's the same melody I ended up using with my song, The Affirmation. Oh, I'm not even gonna go to Michael Jackson and his lyrics. Y'all know I'll mess up all his stuff. Okay, see, y'all knew it wasn't just me, so nobody knew what to. Oh, maybe that was Tony, Avocado Queen. Yeah, I don't know what she's saying on maybe. I like the song though. Somebody said they don't know what she's saying on the heat. Somebody said at some point let's ban whispery songs. I don't mind a whispery song. I just got a beef when that's the only thing that's available for everybody to digest. Like, give me a mix of everything. I don't mind a nice little sexy whisper song after 11 o'clock. Okay, it helps get the job done sometimes. You got company, but like if it's gonna be that all day, I don't want it. Like, especially if I go to like a big arena show or something. I want people to set up, set it off up in there. Give me some growling and some I need all that. I don't want all that cute. Yeah, that's boring after a while. Like, Lord. When is Shantae Moore finally getting her flowers? Well, if her team would ever respond to me, she'd interview on this channel, but I guess I'm not big enough on this channel or this YouTube world to pull her at the moment. But yeah, Shantae's really dope. I've always liked her music. I met her too before. I went to a concert she had in like 2012. And at the time, I was like the youngest person in there. So she pulled me out of she actually let me come and dance on stage with her, which was cool. And then she was asking who I was with because she figured like I was with my mom or something. I was like, no, I came from me. She's like, you like the youngest one in here? Okay. And then I got a nice picture with her. So that was kind of cool. I got the picture somewhere. I don't know. I think it's in my room. Actually, hold on. I'm going to go find it. Shantae, where you at? It's when I still had short hair. I'll find it. Shantae, where did I put her? Oh, it's in my room. Hold on, I grab it. It says I'm about to rap anyway. And don't laugh. This is back when I still had short hair. All right. Yeah, this is way back when. Wow, this is like when I used to short hair. And me and Shantae back then. That was kind of a cool night. So yeah, she's always been dope. But no, I would like to interview her on my channel or do something. But she's booked. She's been booked since she got married. She looks really good too for her age. Aaron said, Calvin, you haven't done any collaborations on your channel, have you? Would you consider doing a collaboration? Well, I mean, I haven't done any on mine, but I've been going on a lot of other people's channels lately. So I did Scotty by Nature's maybe a month ago, I think. I think it's called Climbing, Lifting Higher as We Climb. I want to make sure I get her channel right because she actually has a really great channel. I think you guys should check out Dr. Kamani. It's an excellent channel because they have a lot of really in-depth conversations. Lifting as We Climb Consulting is that channel. I did a show with the R&B representatives. That episode hasn't come out yet, but I don't know when that one comes out, but I did that one. And a lot of times I do a lot of people's podcasts too. So like, let me see, there's a few people I've done over time. Let's see, as far as other people that I've kind of collaborated with for like, either appearing on their stuff or everything else like that. There's a podcast called The Movie Bench. That's this guy, Jason. He has a really good one. So I've been on his a few times. There's Zap exclusive. I've done a few of theirs. They're on Instagram and YouTube. Let's see. There was another Carey's Corner. The radio show's not on anymore, but I did Carey Corner's radio show. I've done the Carey K. Wilson podcast, Sade Champagne show. On the Supposed to Be Different podcast, the Prime Nostalgic podcast. I've done a few people's different things, but as far as my channel, who knows what 2024 will bring. Plus, we'll see. Like I said before, I kind of have some ideas for some things. I'm just not going to speak until stuff is in fruition because I've learned to not always speak before you do stuff because then people be waiting and then you don't deliver and they be mad. So it's better to just be ready. All right. Oh, the order beats Calvin. One day, can you do a video on the difference between sampling and interpolation? Because some of these lawsuits feel like folks are reaching. They certainly are reaching. That'd be a great one. I think we can add it to the next music talk. The next music talk is on New Jack Swing, but maybe that could be the next episode after the New Jack Swing one. And the reason I got inspired with the New Jack Swing ones because remember when Bruno dropped Finesse and then everybody was like, because folks, of course, were kind of pissed off and most are like, well, black folks abandoning New Jack Swing. And I'm like, no, we didn't. The genre just evolved into something else over time. So that's kind of where that documentary goes. And it kind of just goes from the life of New Jack Swing from the beginning until it kind of evolved into something else and just kind of, we'll get to it though. It's not till after the new year. So somebody said, you look nice while we laugh. Oh, that's because I don't like how I look with short hair. Yeah. Even though I'm ready to chop this stuff, I'll be over this hair sometimes. Why did my thing just slide down? Hold on. I was reading somebody's comment. Oh, somebody said, I think you and Kev on stage would be live. We kind of indirectly know each other, but don't know each other at the same time. His wife's sister is my classmate from high school, right? And so back in the day, way back when, because one of my best friends was really close with the sister's sister. And sometimes we used to go to their house. This is like 2004, 2005. And so this would have been when Kevin on stage was, I don't even know if he was married to his wife yet. If he was, they were like newlyweds. Because I remember the son they had was like a baby. So I remember that. That was years ago. That was back in Washington State. But no, I don't really know him. He doesn't know me, but we could somewhat have a familiar territory. I know the sister-in-law, and I know his wife a little bit, but I don't think she remembers me like that. I'm sleepy. First time in a while catching you. Look, I'm just sleepy too. We about to get off of this. Stellar Avenger said, I'd love to see you and FD Signifier talk. I feel like you would have a lot in common. Interesting. I won't say much, but we are going to be on something in January together, which would be kind of cool. So we'll see how that goes. Denisha Clowers, y'all went to the same school. I didn't go to the same school as Kev on stage, but his sister-in-law went to my school. I don't know where he went to school. He has some years on me. He's some years older. I'm not sure where he went to school, but he definitely has roots in the 253, or he at least spent some time there because that's where I'm from. So yeah, all of us are kind of in that same mix. It's actually like this whole internet influencer, the world gets smaller the bigger you become. You start to realize you know everybody, because even Scotty by Nature, we didn't even realize we had known each other for years, but just didn't know each other, like, because we both posted in the same music forum for years, like, which is kind of funny. So it's like the way things come together. Like there's definitely, especially in this internet blogger world, there's definitely a connection with a lot of the music forums as far as people that used to post all the time that became influencers or YouTubers or started podcasts. Like a lot of us all at some point used to post in the same forums and cuss each other out and argue and everything else. And now everybody's kind of in their own space, which is kind of cool. You know who I think would be dope to collab with, but I don't think I really like the Lectual Media channel. I think she does a great job of like covering history. And I really love the Music Archives channel, the guy that does like the voice analysis of all. Those are really great channels. Like I respect people who put like a lot of research into their content and like there's integrity behind what it is they do. Like even if you don't always agree with somebody's content, when you can see the work ethic and how much they put into what it is they do, there's some respect I have for them. So like those are two channels that I think are really dope with what it is that they do. Oh yeah, and the Black Femininity TV is good too with the deep dive. There's some good deep dive channels. That's why I be feeling bad because I know y'all be pressed about So What Happened. I'm like, it's 18,000 deep dive channels. Y'all will get mine at some point. But yeah, that's a great one too. I like a lot of the deep dives because I think they do a good job of kind of preserving narratives in history, because as generations get older and new people come up, a lot of times people don't realize how things were, or they're taking the information they have in 2023 and trying to measure it with what was happening back then. It doesn't work that way, which is why like my So What Happens end up being so long, because we spend a lot of time giving context. And y'all know I'll be talking about, it might be an episode about Usher, but somehow I done shifted and now I'm talking about Salt-N-Pepa and somebody else because it ties to this. And now I'm bringing Tony Thompson. Like we're about to go full circle and paint the full picture, because I think sometimes we underestimate, one, the impact a lot of these folks have had, which is pretty much why I do the So What Happened series, kind of to like protect the legacy of some folks, because as new artists come in, folks get comfortable. I just saw all them K-pop fans that were trying to convince me that Usher couldn't dance. I said, y'all really tried it. But yeah. Oh, and Uptown A Robot, she's funny. I like her too. Um, all right, I'm going to get off in exactly 3 minutes, and then we're gonna call it a night because it's been 3 hours and some change, and y'all got to go to work, and I got to go to work too. So let's set the clock to 12:31, and then we'll wrap up for the night. And yeah, hopefully you guys all have a great holiday season. I still got to get all these little toys and stuff for the God kids. Like Lord, like man. Oh yeah, they were arguing down on that one because Usher got some video with one of these K-pop stars and they're dancing side by side. All I said was, because y'all know how I be feeling with a lot of the K-pop acts. I've always said there's a conversation of trained and there's a conversation of skilled, right? To me, Usher is somebody that's skilled. He just naturally has a certain gift, and you can still train that skill and make it even better. But he's just rooted in what it is that he does. And a lot of these people that have gone through the K-pop factories and the mechanical machines and everything, they're great, but I wouldn't see them as skilled. They're trained. And there's certain things they're just not really rooted in. And there's certain things that don't even come naturally. And how I really caught it was that one time where they had that New Edition performance at that award show, and it was BTS in the crowd. And it was interesting watching them try to dance to them do the New Edition music. And I'm like, why are y'all struggling to kind of just bounce on beat to this? Because I'm like, y'all can do all that intricate, but then it's like just a little pocket groove. Y'all don't know what to do. So I said, they was bouncing. I said, what in the hell? Okay. So yeah, the talent, entertaining to watch, great visuals, but there's just a difference. That's all I was saying. But they would not, you just making up anything. No, I'm not. I'm telling y'all. And don't worry, because that also will be in that Music Talk episode when we talk about the origins of where that all started from. Because I even got the logistics of the initial nightclub where you started to see a lot of what you call the admiration for what Black entertainers were doing. But that'll be another day. All right. Somebody said FD really grew quickly. Happy for him, even though I disagree with a few points. For the most part, I love his content. I haven't really watched a lot of his content, but I've seen one or two videos. He has them long videos like I be having too. So I'd be on the other end like, okay, this is how they must feel when they see my stuff. They're like, he about to be on here for how long? Oh no. And I'd be doing the same thing. Well, that looks like it is our time. Y'all see how tranquil my alarm is? Because I had to like get the one because that Apple thing, that i2, whatever Apple uses, that thing will have you ready to fight somebody. That thing is rude. Like, Lord. Oh, his name is what? June Cook. Okay, that's his name. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, they got the dance moves down, but it's my thing is, even with like the singing and stuff, it'd be like, you know what? Let me hear you do a run. I want to hear that because I don't be hearing that from their music. Let me hear you do one run. Let me hear one of those. Then we'll talk. I'll come back to it. Anyway, and that's not to hate on them. They're entertaining. They work for what they work, and they connect with the fans that they got, which is why they can still do stadium shows in select cities. So good for them. But anyway, this has been a dope live. Like I said, take care of yourselves because it's a crazy world out here. Anyway, mind your business, and that will ensure that you age well. Anyway, I'm off, and we will talk at some point before the new year. See ya.